It starts with a shadowy figure wrapped in a red aura, raw rage radiating off him like heat. Then we get a close-up, a furious man, veins probably popping, physically ripping the chains off his body. The second those chains break, he detonates. A burst of red energy blasts everyone in range clean off their feet. Some faction guards watch from the sidelines, arms crossed, wearing that specific look of guys who think this is going to be easy. He's airborne now, hands burning, staring down the warriors below who are already bracing for him. Then out of nowhere, a masked young man steps in and calls him a fraud. Just like that. The warrior freezes, you can see it on his face, genuine confusion. Who is this guy and what is he even talking about? He doesn't think about it long. He charges in screaming that some soft little bookworm couldn't possibly understand anything. The attack is fast and brutal, the kind of strike designed to end the fight in one shot. The guards don't let it land. They cut in from every angle at once, turning his charge into a coordinated takedown. He can't handle it from all sides. He drops. One of the younger warriors watches the whole thing with the kind of flat, detached look that says he's seen worse before breakfast. Blood in the air now, the fight left its mark. Cut to a single man standing alone in the rain outside a massive temple, just him and the downpour. He seems relieved actually, mutters that the smell is finally starting to clear. And here's the context for that. People born with the heavenly martial body get all 5 senses cranked up to an almost unbearable degree. It's a once-in-a-century condition. The kind of talent that makes no logical sense by ordinary standards. His vision alone is absurd. If he wants to, he can lock onto something microscopic from a ridiculous distance. Like say every detail of a single raindrop mid-fall, that level of precision. And his hearing is just as sharp. Standing in the rain, he catches 2 men nearby grumbling about some scholar poking around the Alliance. One of them grumbles that this scholar keeps poking his nose into everything and won't let people eat in peace. The other guy gets paranoid, wondering if the scholar can actually hear them, but his buddy brushes it off because of the heavy rain. The narrator steps in to confirm. Yes, Kian can absolutely hear them, rain and all, from across a ridiculous distance. And out of everything in his toolkit, that freakish perception is the most terrifying thing about him. He flashes back to passing the civil service exams at 19, just assuming he was sharper than everyone else around him. It wasn't until he joined the Murim Alliance's Inspection Bureau that he figured out the truth. He has the heavenly martial body. With that gift, cracking secret martial manuals felt effortless, and for a while he got pretty intoxicated by how strong he was becoming. But the martial arts world was packed with dangerous masters at every level, and reality checked him fast. He realized pretty quickly he'd paint a target on his back, and since he'd rather read than fight, he made the call to hide everything. So he walks through the rain, turning over the same question. What does he actually want to become? Which road does he even take? He doesn't know. The version of him standing in this rain doesn't have that answer yet. And right in the middle of all that uncertainty, his mind drifts to his mother. He misses her, today especially. The scene cuts and suddenly Kian is standing inside some massive, intimidating hall with his arms crossed like he owns the place. He asks the Namgung clan patriarch straight up why he was summoned, and the man confirms, yes, this is Scholar Kian. Then Namgung Hak steps out from the shadows, the actual clan leader, and remarks on how unnervingly calm the young man seems. Namgung Hak isn't just some clan boss. The world knows exactly who he is, and they gave him a title to prove it. He's one of the 3 heavenly swords. Kian, calm as ever, responds that yeah, he already knew that. Right after that, the patriarch lets loose an overwhelming blue aura that makes it crystal clear why the world respects this man. Kian feels the pressure immediately. It's like the man can see straight through him, and all he can think is, what does this patriarch actually want? The patriarch steps closer and tells Kian he's going to cut the ceremony and get straight to the point. Kian's mind immediately goes to the worst case. Does this man know about the heavenly martial body? The clan leader starts talking slowly, deliberately, and every word just cranks the tension up another notch. Kian is barely breathing at this point, waiting for the hammer to drop. And then the patriarch begs him, actually begs, gets desperate about turning his youngest son into a functional human being. Kian is floored, the great master is literally bowing to him, and none of this makes any sense. Before he can even process it, Namgung Hak drops another bomb. He's already had Kian investigated. Every detail. He heard about the scholar's intelligence and sharp judgment straight from the head of inspection. Word travels fast in this clan. He also caught wind of how Kian completely turned around a notorious troublemaker in the Alliance. That story got around. Kian tries to wave it off, saying the whole thing with Pang Solin was just a misunderstanding. classic deflection. The patriarch doesn't buy the modesty and pivots, revealing he knows Kian gave up a palace position to care for his sick mother. Kian goes quiet and bows, no point denying it. This man has done his homework. That's when Namgung Hak puts the real offer on the table. Help him, and the clan will cure his mother's illness. Kian stays still for a moment, head down, actually thinking it through. This isn't something you answer in a hurry. A few seconds of silence, the weight of the proposal just sitting there between them. Finally, he speaks up, cautious. His mother's condition isn't some ordinary illness you throw money at. Namgung Hak cuts him off calmly. He already knows exactly what the illness is, and the clan's divine doctor will handle it personally. Kian's eyes go wide. The divine doctor, that legendary figure, is actually here in this clan right now. The patriarch just smiles, quiet, confident. That smile says everything. Then Namgung Hak adds the rest of the deal. Educate his youngest son while he's at it. And in return, after all that, Kian can go wherever he wants. The Hanlin Academy, the Imperial Palace, his pick. Kian is stunned, but the math clicks fast. A real career path and proper treatment for his mother. He smiles, quiet and resolved, and makes himself a promise. No matter how bad the patriarch's son turns out to be, he's going to make a person out of him. Then right on cue, someone starts screaming insults from a nearby building. Kian turns his head and walks toward the noise. Inside, a young servant girl is soaked head to toe, shaking, after someone dumped a full bowl of cold water on her. The culprit is a red-haired young man pacing and fuming, absolutely livid that she can't manage the simplest task. He won't let it go either. He asked for a wet towel, not a bowl of water, and he's going to make sure she knows the difference. The girl keeps apologizing. He snaps that he's already stressed about a duel and doesn't have time to deal with incompetence like hers. The girl looks genuinely scared now. He's winding up to do something when Kian steps into the room. Both the young master and the servant freeze. Kian doesn't rush. He strolls in, fan in hand, taking in the whole scene like he's reading a document. His eyes settle on the patriarch's son, calm and measuring. First impression, filing it away. The young man, Namgung Mu-baek, looks him over with open contempt and asks who the hell this guy thinks he is. He figures it out in about 2 seconds. New writing tutor, obviously. Kian just looks back at him, unbothered. Kian confirms it. The patriarch assigned him. He says it plainly and takes a slow step forward. Mu-baek is already annoyed. Why does his father keep pulling this pointless stuff? He puts on a mocking smile and complains that the patriarch never stops sending him useless, worthless scholars. Kian clocks the crude mouth and the shallow temper, but the patriarch's warning is already running in the back of his head. He remembers exactly what the clan leader said about his youngest son. The boy is uneducated. He has serious character problems. The patriarch did not sugarcoat it. Then the ball Mu-baek was squeezing hits the floor and shatters. No warning, just gone. The servant flinches hard. Mu-baek spins toward Kian with a look of pure fury and lets him have it. Kian clocks it immediately. This kid wears every emotion on his face. Mu-baek got hit somewhere real. The servant watching from the side says absolutely nothing. Just stands there, frozen, hoping no one looks at him. Mu-baek smirks and gives Kian that much. The scholar's got guts, he'll admit it. Then the smirk drops, dead serious now. Nobody has ever spoken to Namgung Mu-baek like that, not once. So he lays out the terms. If Kian hasn't run screaming by the end of the day, he'll accept him as his master. Kian agrees on the spot. Kian does suggest one small addition though. Words are easy to forget. Better to put this in writing. Mu-baek blinks. A contract. He calls the scholar meticulous about it, but you can tell he didn't see that coming. He agrees anyway, says he'll write 10 contracts if that's what it takes, and goes to grab the supplies. In his head, Mu-baek figures the new tutor has no idea what he just signed up for. Still, something about it catches his interest. Kian, meanwhile, decides to push a little harder. He adds a wager to the contract while Mu-baek's still getting the brush. Mu-baek picks up the brush, calls the scholar a real piece of work, and agrees to the bet with a grin. Kian smiles back. He's already figured out exactly who he's dealing with. Someone who can't resist a real competition. Mu-baek names his price, not money. If he wins, Kian serves him as a slave for a full year. Kian finds the condition a little juvenile, honestly, but shrugs and takes it. Sounds entertaining enough. Contract signed. Mu-baek glances at Kian's calligraphy and actually means it when he says the man writes like a true scholar. Then he tells his new master to keep up, because class is about to start and he's teaching this one personally. That maniacal grin spreads across his face as he announces the lesson, the cruelty of the world. The servant looks like he wants to disappear. And then he's gone, launches himself out of the room at full speed before anyone can say another word. Kian watches him go and lands on the same reed, total child. gets furious in an instant but also genuinely lights up over everything. Cut to a street, Bake has already made it there somehow, and someone nearby is just trying to order a bowl of noodles. Bake flashes a mischievous grin, already plotting how to knock some manners into that jerk, while Kian watches from behind. He bolts down the street, scanning for the perfect target for his first lesson on how the world actually works. The look on his face is pure unhinged excitement. He's about to show exactly who he is. He zeroes in on a burly man with his back turned and approaches with that unsettling smile of his. Without a word of warning, Bake drives a full punch into the man's back. The guy never saw it coming. The hit lands hard, the warrior stumbles forward, completely blindsided. He spins around, furious, demanding to know who did that and what the hell just happened. Then he sees Bake standing there with a smug smile, and the confusion only makes him angrier. The warrior can't make sense of it. Why would some kid just walk up and hit him for no reason? Bake points straight at Kian and says if he wants answers, he'd better ask the scholar over there. Kian goes completely blank. He had zero part in this and now he's the one on the hook for it. Bake is loving every second of watching his tutor squirm. Thinks it's about time the man got a taste of reality. And just like that, the young master bolts, leaving Kian alone to face a very angry warrior. The man rounds on Kian and asks if he's the kid's attendant, giving him one chance to explain himself. The warrior is seething. He wants to know why that little brat hit him out of nowhere. Kian's already reading the situation, calm eyes taking in every detail of the man in front of him. He clocks that the warrior hasn't drawn his sword despite the insult, and the guy doesn't match any major faction he knows. So Kian bows and apologizes, smooth and clean, even though none of this was his fault to begin with. Then he slips in one small observation about the man's sword, and the warrior's expression shifts immediately. Kian smiles and lays it out. This man is from the Manhwa Sect. The warrior's jaw drops. He stammers, demanding to know how a random scholar could possibly know about his sect. Kian just smiles and drops the card. He works for the Murim Alliance's Inspection Bureau. Then he casually reminds the man that his sect leader once caused serious damage to an Alliance elder and had to be bilated out. The warrior goes pale, confirming it, then immediately realizes something is very wrong. That was classified information. Kian explains that he personally handled that case, which is exactly why he knows every detail. The realization hits the man like a brick. He asks in genuine terror if he's standing in front of the infamous mad scholar Kian. Kian looks almost entertained, asks if that nickname has really spread that far already. Meanwhile, Bake is watching from a distance, completely baffled. The same warrior who was ready to throw hands is now bowing and apologizing. He cannot figure out what just happened or why this guy is suddenly acting like a servant. Kian gives Bake a little wave and strolls off with the warrior, who is now treating him like royalty. The young master is furious. He watched the whole thing flip in 60 seconds and has absolutely no idea how. Kian fills the warrior in on the backstory, how the kid pulled that little prank and stabbed him in the back. Says it must be exhausting serving someone like that. He jokes that babysitting Bake is basically like walking a feral dog. The warrior nods and says yeah, that kid picked the wrong person to mess with. The man even says he feels a little bad for the brat now, provoking Kian of all people. From across the courtyard, Bake watches the two of them whispering and laughing, and it is driving him absolutely insane. Kian glances over with that slow, satisfied smile. He can already tell things are about to get a lot more interesting. The warrior gives Kian one last respectful bow and takes his leave. Bake clocks every second of it from a distance. Bake is visibly irritated, frustrated. The whole thing went completely sideways and he still doesn't know why. Then Kian walks over, fan in hand, that same unreadable smile plastered on his face. Bake doesn't even try to hide it. He gets right in Kian's face and demands to know what exactly he said to that warrior. Kian just turns and walks away, leaving Bake standing there with a look that says he's still working out what just happened. Kian glances back with that infuriatingly calm smile and says it was nothing, just an apology. Classic. Bake is seething. That unruffled, serene attitude is exactly what's driving him crazy, and he makes no effort to hide it. So he makes a decision right there. That smug air needs to go fast. He is not letting this tutor spend another minute looking down on him. What really gets under his skin is that Kian carries himself with this effortless, natural dignity and Bake just doesn't, especially in the face. He knows it too. So Bake starts cooking up a new plan to put his tutor in his place, right here, right now. That's when he spots a big guy sitting at a nearby stall, happily slurping noodles and minding his own business completely. Bake grins like he just had the best idea of his life. he is going to make absolutely sure everyone on this street knows exactly who they are dealing with. He cracks his knuckles and squares up, ready to kick off yet another incident in broad daylight. Eyes burning with that unhinged energy, he charges straight at the guy, screaming at him to move. The bull goes airborne before the man even registers what's happening. Zero warning, just immediate violence. ManhwaCapped plants a kick right in the man's face and announces himself as a member of the Namgung clan. Great first impression. The crowd freezes. Nobody standing around expected a random noodle stall lunch to turn into a crime scene. Kian watches all of this unfold and just thinks, what is this kid doing? The bowl cracks against the ground with a thud you can feel, sending noodles flying in every direction. Kian stares at the mess and genuinely cannot figure out what point was supposed to be made here. For a beat, the whole street goes quiet. Everyone just staring at the noodle carnage ManhwaCapped left behind. ManhwaCapped spins around toward Kian with this self-satisfied grin plastered across his face, like he just proved something major. Then a group of men walks over, and they are not happy about any of it. One of them fixes Kian with a contemptuous glare and calls him academic trash, real proud of himself about it. ManhwaCapped flashes that confident grin and tells them they'll pay for crossing him directly. Then he pivots and points straight at Kian, dumping the whole situation in his lap. In front of every angry face on the street, he announces the scholar will be handling the explanation from here. The young master smiles like he just won something and tells everyone to pay close attention to what his tutor has to say. Kian just stands there, silent, ringed by men who all want answers right now. ManhwaCapped leans in with the taunt. Broke scribes can't exactly pay for damages, so good luck with that. The young master steps right up into Kian's space and locks eyes with him, smirking the whole time. He dares Kian to use that sharp tongue of his one more time and talk his way out of this mess. With maximum smugness, he tells Kian to go ahead and fix the problem he personally caused. The scholar takes a breath and accepts. If this is what the young master wishes, then who is he to refuse? No hesitation, Kian steps forward, making it clear he's handling this himself, his way. Internally, he's already noted that Namgung ManhwaCapped is being irrational again. He saw this coming. The men around them start muttering. Everyone knows nobody argues with the young master once he digs in like this. Kian is alone out there, hostile stares pressing in from all sides, and he knows every bit of this mess just became his problem. But fear, not a drop. His eyes go sharp and cold, something calculated switching on behind them. Then he just yells, loud enough to stop every merchant on the street in their tracks. An old woman at her stall spins around, completely caught off guard by the sudden outburst. Kian then declares that starting now, all protection fees on this street. He sweeps his arm out wide, making sure everyone understands he means the entire commercial district. And to ManhwaCapped's total disbelief, the tutor announces it will all be handled directly by the Namgung clan itself. ManhwaCapped is absolutely floored. The scholar just casually declared the Namgung clan would handle everything, and ManhwaCapped cannot process that level of audacity. Kian turns to the merchants with this infuriating little smirk and basically asks them to confirm the clan has their backs. Zero shame. ManhwaCapped snaps. He shouts that he would never lower himself to managing some filthy market street like this one. And now he's really grinding his teeth because on top of everything, Kian just threw the Namgung clan's name around like it costs nothing. That's a line. Then the Duzik gang shows up right on cue, their leader telling the scholar to drop the act. He steps forward and makes it clear, this street belongs to them and he is not handing it over to anyone. Kian just smirks, not even a flinch. The threat lands on him like rain on stone. He looks the gang leader up and down and goes, oh, so you're the ones running this place. That explains a lot. Then he pivots straight to ManhwaCapped and throws the challenge down. Is he really going to let some street gang intimidate him? ManhwaCapped stumbles over his words but manages to spit out that no, of course not, and he could run this street 10 times better than they ever could. Kian smacks him on the back of the head and wheels on the gang like, you all heard that right. And then completely deadpan, he announces the new protection fee, 1 copper coin per month. The merchants lose their minds. 1 copper coin, they are practically in tears. The Namgung clan just became their favorite people on earth. ManhwaCapped stands there watching the celebration with a blank expression, slowly realizing he has apparently been volunteered as a hero. Then one of the merchants locks eyes with him, gratitude written all over his face. The man bows deep and thanks ManhwaCapped directly, and ManhwaCapped has never been more confused in his life. He did not agree to any of this, he did not even want to be here. and yet somehow he is the one getting thanked. The merchants start calling him a hero, a savior of the people, someone who actually cares about the little guy. One man straight up shouts that Namgung Mubake is the only person in this world who gives a damn about the common folk. The crowd starts chanting his name, and despite himself, Mubake starts smiling. He is absolutely eating it up. Mubake is eating it up, grinning while the crowd chants his name. Kian watches from the side, completely unmoved. Kian announces he's reached a conclusion after sizing up the troublemakers of the Muram Alliance. He lays out his diagnosis. Most of them suffer from a mental illness caused by lack of attention. The cure, he says, is love. And Mubake is living for it, posing and soaking up every second of the crowd's adoration. Kian, on the other hand, just looks tired and quietly irritated by the whole spectacle. Two women watch the whole thing from a nearby tea house, drinks in hand, completely unbothered. They watch Mubake performing for the crowd, with Kian standing right there beside him. One of them asks who the scholar is. The other figures he must be a new recruit for the Namgung clan. She's a little surprised that someone their own age can actually keep Mubake in line. The other woman responds with disdain. He's just a scholar, she says, not really worth the little princess's attention. But the princess isn't buying that. If he can wrangle the Namgung clan's walking headache, he's already at a certain level. So she tells her servant to look into the scholar. He might actually be useful to them. Then she shifts gears entirely, something heavier crossing her face as the mood changes. She moves to the window, her servant following, and they both look down at the street below. The princess asks her companion where they've put the precious object. The servant tells her it's in the mountain fortress, the safest place they have right now. The scene cuts to a pile of silver coins, one of them slipping off the top of the heap. Mubake slams a bag of coins on the table and tells Kian to tear up the contract. Right now. Kian complains that a banknote would have been much simpler and asks why he got handed 100 heavy coins. The young master snaps that he didn't do it for Kian's convenience and that he can't stand watching this a second longer. Kian just smiles and says since he insists, he'll have to watch him count every single coin, just to make sure none are missing. So the scholar starts counting, slowly, one coin at a time, savoring every second of it. Namgung Mubake is losing his mind. The slow pace is unbearable and he starts threatening to end Kian right there on the spot. He can't take it anymore. He storms out hurling insults, swearing he'll get revenge on that insufferable scholar. Kian picks up a few coins, notes how heavy they are, and just enjoys the quiet, earned it. The servant who watched the whole thing unfold walks over and tells him that was genuinely impressive. She says it's the first time she's ever seen the young master hand over his own money that obediently. Then she leans in and whispers, "Isn't the young master just a completely out of control jerk?" Kian looks at her with this calm, slightly amused smile. Not agreeing, not disagreeing, just smiling. She catches herself fast and backtracks, insisting she must be talking nonsense because of a fever. Kian waves it off and offers to do acupuncture on her. Turns out he knows a bit about medicine too. She blinks medicine on top of everything else. This guy just keeps adding skills. Then her face shifts. She quietly admits her mother has been bedridden at home for a long time. Kian tells her to round up everyone who needs treatment. He'll see to all of them. She bows deeply, clearly moved. That kind of offer from someone like him means a lot. Then Kian straightens up with a look that means business. Time to seriously start fixing the brat. Cut to the scholar in a library surrounded by stacks of books and paintings. Research mode. Here's where we get the backstory. While studying medicine to help his mother, he stumbled onto two discoveries that changed everything. He grips a book tightly as the memories come back. Two facts, both hit hard. The first was about his mother's constitution. Something unusual was buried in it, something rare. His mother had the supreme body of the purple star, a rare heavenly constitution that made her one of a kind. That same constitution was the reason her illness laughed at every medicine and acupuncture needle thrown at it. The good news, Kian found that a rare herb called the spiritual dawn flower could actually cure her. The bad news, the second thing he discovered was about his own constitution, and it was a lot to unpack. Born from a mother with the supreme body of the purple star, he inherited the heavenly martial body. Once he hit 20, his senses started going haywire in the best possible way. His body just rewired itself, built for martial arts now and soaking up knowledge faster than anyone expected. But every special constitution comes with a catch, and his is brutal. He carries the fate of the broken army star. Unless he absorbs the energy of 6 stars from the Big Dipper, the broken army star will detonate inside him. When that happens, desire and rage take over completely, and he dies young and badly. Kiin closes the book and his expression says it all. Time is not on his side. Both his life and his mother's are riding on whatever he decides to do next. To dodge that fate, he has to track down 6 specific people who carry star energy. Only then can he stop his own transformation and pull his mother back from the edge. Then the scene cuts hard to a rooftop, and someone is already getting wrecked up there. A guy gets launched across the ground, hits hard, face torn up and bleeding. He's down in the debris, completely done, no fight left in him. Still on the ground, he warns the newcomer, "This place is dangerous, get out of here fast." But whoever he's warning just keeps walking closer, slow and steady, not even a little scared. The downed man yells for them to stop, and the stranger just keeps coming anyway. The figure steps into the light, and it's Kiin. His opener, "Finding you is easy, just go to wherever it's loudest." Then he drops the actual insult. Calls the kid a brat who can't even keep his own broken army star energy under control. The young man flares up instantly, bottle already in hand, sloshing it around as his temper gets ahead of him. He crushes the bottle in his fist and demands to know if this scholar has any idea who he's talking to. Then the name drop, full death glare, he announces himself as Pang Solin, son of a Murim Alliance elder. Clearly expects that to land. Kiin just opens his fan, calm, unbothered, like someone told him there's a 30% chance of rain. He smiles and introduces himself as a member of the Murim Alliance Inspection Bureau. Official, polite, completely unmoved. Cut back to the present, the servant snaps Kiin out of it, asking what he was just spacing out about. Kiin blinks a little startled and waves it off. "Just drifting through some old memories," he says. There at the Chansam Tia House, a tea house on the northern road through the Namun clan territory. Quiet, clean, the kind of place you'd actually want to spend an afternoon. And inside, Kiin is doing acupuncture on multiple patients, just quietly running a clinic like it's a normal Tuesday. He pulls a thin needle from his kit and lines up the next treatment without a word. Needle goes in clean. The servant watches from the side, clearly not sure what to make of any of this. At one point, he even demonstrates the technique on his own hand, showing the patient exactly where the needle goes and why. Meanwhile, the princess's servant and the tea house owner, Hua Yang, are both watching Kiin work from a distance. Hua Yang can't help herself. She points out that last time, Kiin dealt with that unruly kid like it was nothing. And now he's doing acupuncture that puts most actual doctors to shame. The gap between what you'd expect and what he actually is keeps growing. She lands on a verdict: this guy is absolutely worth the young mistress's attention. She was right to look into him. Kiin keeps moving, unbothered. Finishes a treatment, sits down, writes out a prescription without even breaking rhythm. Then an elderly couple stops him to say thank you, calling him scholar with real warmth in their voices. The old woman pulls out some eggs as a thank you, telling Kiin she never dreamed she'd receive care like this. Kiin looks at the eggs, just eggs, but there's nothing just about them when it's all someone has to give. He smiles and tells her they look fresh and that he'll enjoy every one of them. He takes the small bag carefully like it actually matters, because it does. Then he turns around and hands them money for their medicines. The old woman immediately recoils. Getting treated was already too much, she can't take money on top of it. But Kiin won't budge, their family, he says. Same master, same table, you help each other. The patients get emotional. One of them just comes out and says it. The scholar is a genuinely good person. Kiin smiles and gently tells them it's getting late. Time to head home. They leave in good spirits, one guy practically giddy because his shoulder actually works again. Kiin turns to face Hua Yang, the tea house owner, who's been watching the whole thing with a quiet smile. He thanks her for letting him use the space this late into the night. It made a real difference. Hua Yang tells him to come back anytime and offers to set up a private room for him next time. He thanks her again, and his brain quietly notes that she's younger and more beautiful than he'd pictured. And then, completely without warning, his mind fires off an image of the two of them in a very intimate moment. He looks absolutely mortified. His face goes red on the spot. He's genuinely startled by his own thoughts. Cold sweat, full internal meltdown. He demands to know what he was just thinking and tears into himself for it. Right, he needs to find the people carrying the Big Dipper energy. Soon, before things get any messier. Cut to night, Kiin is standing in front of a lit-up building, ready for the next move. Meanwhile, a princess turns to her servant and asks how the investigation into the scholar is going. The servant spills the basics. Kiin was born in Wuhan, came from a well-connected family, and then that family crashed hard. Good character apparently, but a real troublemaker about it. He kept exposing corruption inside the alliance and collected enemies like trading cards. The princess blinks when she hears he actually took down a Murim alliance elder. That's not a minor footnote, that's a career-defining move. Turns out he was so relentless about it that people started calling him the Ghostly Scholar. The man earned a nickname, Respect. The princess puts it together fast. The alliance couldn't touch him openly, so they shipped him off to the Namgung clan instead. Classic political exile wrapped in a tutoring job. The servant tosses in one more thing. There are rumors Kiin knows actual martial arts and not at a beginner level. We're talking on par with the rising stars of his generation. And then there's the matter of his mother. The princess doesn't let the servant hesitate on this one. She wants it all. The servant lays it out. After digging into Kiin's mother's condition, she found the woman suffers from a severed pulse. That's not a minor ailment. The princess goes quiet for a second. Could he be the severed pulse holder she's been looking for? The thought clearly lands hard. The servant looks uneasy but stays silent. Not agreeing out loud, but definitely not arguing either. Here's the weight of it. The princess has spent 5 whole years searching for this person, and she's only got 1 year left to live. The clock is very much running. That settles it for her. She has to find the severed pulse holder, and she's going to check Kiin's mother herself to be sure. She turns to her servant, Hua Yang, and gives the order, keep watching the scholar. Don't let him out of sight. Cut to Kiin, walking alone at night, running the problem through his head. Where do you even start looking for people carrying Big Dipper energy? He works through it logically. People born with that kind of energy can't hide it forever. Sooner or later it shows. Which means they're probably already visible somehow. Famous, or at least running things somewhere important. They wouldn't be nobodies. He keeps walking, no destination, just the question turning over and over. The kind of deep focus that looks like daydreaming to anyone watching. Then Mu Bake crashes in out of nowhere, face lit up, calling out teacher, like he just found a lost puppy. Kiin's expression does not change. Tired eyes, flat face. The man saw this coming from 50 meters away and was already resigned to it. Mu Bake shoves a book into his hands. Kiin looks at it, looks at him, and asks what it is. Mu Bake explains that the book has been passed down through his family for generations, but nobody has ever managed to interpret it. He says he wants to try deciphering it himself, and Kiin asks if it's a martial arts manual. Mu Bake shrugs and says he has no idea, then asks his writing teacher for help, since that's literally what he's there for. That sets off alarm bells. Kiin narrows his eyes, wondering what that little brat is actually scheming by asking him for a favor. After a beat, he accepts anyway. He was bored, so why not? Mu Bake cheers, tells him he's counting on him, and bolts off before Kiin can change his mind. And Kiin just stands there, already regretting it, knowing full well the young master is up to something. From a safe distance, Mu Bake laughs to himself. That idiot scholar thinks it's just some ordinary manual. He lets us in on the trick. Anyone who tries to interpret the book ends up hitting chi deviation. Every single time. Kiin opens the book and it clicks immediately. He's been had. He stares at the pages with barely contained fury, realizing Mu Bake just handed him a secret manual of the Namgung clan. Meanwhile, Mu Bake is lying in the grass without a care in the world, very satisfied with his little act of revenge. He dares the scholar to go ahead and try cracking it, knowing exactly what's coming. The smirk on his face says it all. This isn't just any text, it's a trap. He explains that this martial art has already destroyed countless geniuses of the Namgung clan who tried to master it. The moment you attempt to interpret it and channel it through your body, your meridians start clogging one by one, straight into chi deviation. Mu Bake keeps lounging as people stroll by, none of them knowing he just set a very smug little trap. Back to Kiin, sitting outside reading. The book is dense, packed with complex descriptions of the heavenly Tao and the principles of yin and yang. And yet, instead of being rattled, he looks fascinated. The principles layered into this supreme martial art are genuinely something else. So he makes a call. Reading isn't enough. He's going to try absorbing the verses directly through his body. A servant walks up and calls his name, snapping him right out of his concentration. She thanks him and tells him her mother's condition has improved a lot since taking his medicine. Kiin smiles and says he's genuinely glad to hear that. The servant mentions the others are impressed by his skills too, and offers to help him with anything he needs. He actually takes her up on it, says yeah, he could use a hand. Then he holds up the book and asks, almost casually, whether by any chance the lodging has a wooden sword lying around. The girl just stares at him. That was not the request she was expecting from a scholar. Before she can even process it, Namgung Mu Bake storms in and demands to know what she's doing. He's furious she gave his wooden sword away. The servant immediately starts apologizing, visibly scared. Then Mu Bake draws his real sword and levels it at her. She looks absolutely terrified. He starts talking about how sharp the blade is, nice and calm, while she's clearly fearing for her life. He grips the sword tight, posturing like he's about to swing at this completely defenseless girl. Then with this cruel little smile, he flips the sword around and just hands it to her. He tells her to forget the wooden sword, give the scholar a real one instead. And then the smile gets wider. He says a real sword still isn't quite enough for what he has in mind. So he tells the servant to round up every weapon in the place and bring them all to the scholar. She looks completely lost. Cut to the training yard. Kiin has a wooden sword in hand and starts working through the forms. He moves clean and fluid, running through the techniques straight from the book. He notices he doesn't even know the name of this martial art yet, but the chants are layered with esoteric Buddhist ideology. And he works out pretty quickly that to actually master it, you need to understand exactly where the meridian points of esoteric Buddhism sit. The manual was perfectly engineered to funnel anyone who tried it straight into meridian deviation. That was the trap Mu-Baek walked into. But Kiin had read an ancient Sanskrit text on esoteric Buddhism back in the Alliance's library, and he knows exactly where those meridians sit. Eyes shut, he goes still and starts pulling energy inward, beginning the accumulation process. He snaps his eyes open with a shout. He's going to crack this technique today. He routes spiritual energy through the blood points of the 7 stars and 7 origins, one by one. The sword starts moving, blue energy coiling around him as he works through each sequence. And with this method, he can actually feel it. The secret essence of the sword technique, almost within reach. Nobody in the Muram Alliance would ever figure this out. The source text was written in Sanskrit. He tightens his grip on the wooden sword, planting his feet for the next movement. And the only person who ever read that book and actually understood it was him. He tears through the movements at incredible speed, each strike clean and precise, a wave of energy bursting outward. Kiin figures it out. The creator of this art intended the practitioner to use spiritual meridian power specifically. But anyone who tried it with standard internal energy would jam their meridians and fall apart from the inside. He doesn't stop, he keeps going, face tight, every muscle straining against the technique. His eyes burn with energy as he forces his way through the complexity of each form. Teeth clenched, he pushes harder, the energy tearing through him with painful, overwhelming force. The scene cuts wide, a gorgeous sunset bleeding gold across temple rooftops. Kiin's wooden sword is lying on the ground, slick with sweat from the whole session. He exhales finally, clothes shredded, body drenched, but that expression says he got what he came for. He works it out, even knowing the meridian locations, trying to flood all of them simultaneously would trigger the same deviation. That's the ceiling. And if he told the Namgong clan about that, they'd kick him out as a martial arts thief. Simple as that. So he just collapses on the ground, completely spent after pushing his body that far. Tired smile and all, because he knows the clan would never believe a mere civil scholar cracked something ancient masters couldn't. Scene cuts to Kiin handing a coin to the servant girl who helped him out. She's confused, asking what exactly this money is supposed to be for. He tells her it's pocket money, mentions the room's a mess, and she immediately offers to clean it up. He turns her down with an awkward smile and just thanks her for offering. That throws her completely. She doesn't know what to do with a scholar who thanks servants. He says his goodbyes, tells her he's heading out, and asks her to let anyone who comes looking know he'll be back at night. She just stands there watching him leave with this confused, slightly worried look on her face. Kiin strolls through the market, taking in the merchants and craftsmen working their stalls. He keeps walking, clearly looking for something specific. Apparently there's a big herb shop somewhere around here, and he's hunting it down. Fan in hand, he's thinking about whether the shop might carry anything that could help his mother's condition. Then 2 men spot him and immediately point him out. Found you. Their leader moves in with that classic bully swagger, henchmen falling in behind him. Kiin turns to face them, same unbothered expression as always. The leader announces himself as the Duzek gang and asks if Kiin has any clue how much money they've lost. The gang closes in around him and the leader gets to the point. Is the Namgong clan really moving in on their protection fees? He tells Kiin to go back to the clan and sort it out, let them keep collecting. Kiin refuses. Kiin shrugs and tells them to take their complaints straight to young Master Namgong. Then the cold warning lands. He's blunt about it, don't throw your lives away over collection fees. Then he asks whether they seriously think they can handle the Namgong clan. The gang leader laughs. The scholar has no idea what's going on, apparently. Someone tipped them off and told them exactly where to find him. Cut to Mu-Baek watching from a distance, grinning. Yeah, he's the one who set Kiin up. Kiin snaps his fan open and says he already has a pretty good guess who's behind this, completely unfazed. Then he just walks straight toward them, calm, unhurried. The thugs don't know what to do with that. He flashes that quiet smile and asks if they've ever heard of a Murim scholar. He's standing right in the middle of the whole gang now, and somehow he's still the most dangerous presence there. He asks it again, slower this time, fan gripped like he's already decided how this is going to end. The gang leader scoffs. A fan? He wants to know if the scholar is planning a fan dance and whether he even knows what martial arts is. The whole crew tightens the circle around him. Everyone is ready to go at any second. The leader gives the order, time to send the scholar a message he is not going to forget. One thug steps up first, wearing that grin like this is going to be easy work. He rushes in fast, fist already raised, absolutely sure the scholar is not a threat. Kian, still perfectly calm, mentions that something he read in a book just confirmed what he suspected. Fan gripped tight. Blue energy starts bleeding off the fan. The scholar is already lining up his response. The thug does not slow down. He tells Kian to cut the nonsense and keeps charging. The punch never connects. Kian channels energy through his spiritual meridians and it pushes out like a wave. Fan meets fist, the energy detonates on contact, and the thug gets blasted clean off his feet. He hits the ground hard, screaming. That was not a soft landing by any measure. He's flat on his back in a crater, staring at the sky, completely lost on what just hit him. Kian explains it calmly. The energy wave concentrates at one point, then fans outward from there. The gang leader stares, genuinely thrown. Did that bookworm actually just use martial arts? Kian turns to him with that quiet dark energy and basically says, "You're next if you want in." The man scrambles to save face, mumbling something about how his boys just forgot to show proper respect to a scholar. Total misunderstanding, really. Kian cuts him off flat. Stop performing. He still has things to look into, and this little act isn't helping. The gang leader's bravado evaporates on the spot. He's terrified now, begging for just a second. Kian grabs the guy by the face and asks his name. The man stammers out, Duzuki. Every single gang member is on their knees now. The scholar is just standing there. Kian hits them with the cold glare and lays it out. If he ever hears they're collecting fees again, he will break every bone in their bodies. He says he's going easy because all they did was collect fees. The thugs thank him like he just saved their lives. But Kian isn't done. He tells them he still has more to investigate with them specifically. Scene cut, we're at the Hall of 100 Herbs now and the place is big. Legitimately imposing. Kian walks in and thinks that if those guys had been any stronger, he could have actually tested his technique properly. He glances down at his fan. It's in pieces. Apparently nothing survives contact with that spiritual energy wave. He goes quiet for a second and starts wondering if he should just commission an iron fan instead. Then he drops the idea. He's not a martial artist. That trick only works on street thugs anyway. He keeps walking through the shop and thinks that his own competitive streak nearly got him killed today. He scans the pharmacy floor and has to admit it. The rumors were right. This place is enormous. Then something stops him cold. Right there in the herb shop, something he clearly did not expect to see. A white-haired woman steps out carrying a tray of herbs, wearing a calm, easy smile. Kian's brain short-circuits. She's easily top 3 most beautiful women he's ever laid eyes on. He just stands there completely locked up, staring like an idiot. Then out of nowhere, Mew Bake is also in the shop. He spots her immediately and strides right over to introduce himself. Kian watches and thinks, what is this little punk doing here? Because naturally, the young master is already flirting. She tells him she has a lot of work to get through, but Mew Bake bulldozes past that and asks for her name anyway. She keeps it short, just a doctor, stopped by to pick up herbs for her practice. That's when Mew Bake's memory kicks in. He places her, Lady Jong So-bin. Kian watches the whole thing with narrowed eyes. Nobody hands out kindness for free, he knows that. Mew Bake fakes a headache on the spot and asks the Saintess to take a look at him. She says no, she's busy. But she drops a maybe later and that's all he needs. He watches her walk out wearing the dumbest grin imaginable. So yeah, the young master has apparently found a beauty he considers worthy of his very high standards. Then he turns and nearly does a double take, spotting Kian standing there, asking what he's doing in the shop. Kian says he came for herbs. Mew Bake stammers out that he, also came for medicine. Kian glances at the prescription and raises an eyebrow. Is this kid buying a potency tonic? Mew Bake gets defensive fast. It's a wisdom broth, obviously, for concentration. Totally different. Kian loses it. He asks if this is seriously the kind of art the guy claims to be so passionately devoted to. Mew Bake pivots, not interested in that conversation. He asks whether Kian has made any progress on that manual he handed over. Then he twists the knife. If Kian were actually serious about decoding it, he wouldn't have time to be wandering around shops. Kian fires back without missing a beat. He came out because he needed herbs for the interpretation. it's part of the work. He claims he's deciphered a few verses but says it's tough going. Bake just scoffs at the whole act. Bake says he had high hopes since Kian is a Jincha-level scholar. Emphasis on had. Then Kian, with this calm little smile, drops it. He's already finished interpreting some verses. Perfectly. That shuts the young master up. Just a beat of silence while he processes what he just heard. Then he recovers, plasters on a smirk, and goes, "Sure you did, buddy," playing it off like he totally believed him all along. He leans in and asks Kian to share a little of what he got from the book. Just a taste. Kian clocks how weirdly pleased Bake looks and starts wondering if he actually expected this to work out. Bake keeps pushing, says nobody would understand a line or two anyway, so what's the harm in sharing? Kian goes quiet for a moment, not hesitating, loading. Then he starts reciting the actual verses right off the first page of the book. He walks through the yin and yang principles in the manual, clean and precise, no fumbling. Bake just stares. This is the correct interpretation, the one nobody could crack, and this guy just rattled it off. He lights up, huge smile. Okay, Kian is actually, genuinely a Jincha-level scholar. Bake tells him straight up none of his other teachers ever showed interpretive ability like that. Not one. Kian snaps into this loud, authoritative tone and asks if he understood the explanation. Bake fires back a yes with a full-on, enthusiastic grin. Kian squints at him, not entirely sure if he means it. And then Bake closes the gap, all excited energy, calling him writing teacher again. Kian stares at him with maximum exhaustion and asks what he wants now. Bake reveals that guests from the Jude clan are coming the day after tomorrow. Kian has no idea why that involves him. He puts it together anyway. This is about young master Judge Duwon. Bake confirms it. There's a friend his age in that group. Kian already knew that's what this was about. Bake dangles the invite like a prize. Show up, eat well, drink free wine. Pretty generous pitch for someone asking a favor. Kian puts it together instantly. Bake needs him at a gathering full of troublemakers, and that explains the wisdom broth. He wasn't studying, he was prepping for a social battlefield. The problem is one guest, Judge Duwon, is actually educated. His clan has always valued learning, so he comes in a cut above the usual rabble. And from what Kian has heard, Judge Duwon loves to show off at these things, pulling out the four arts to flex on everyone in the room. Kian glances at Bake and just laughs internally. How ignored do you have to be to come crawling to a scholar for backup? But then a little grin creeps in. Two insufferable rich kids in a room together? That actually sounds entertaining. Kian is practically delighted. One brat getting humiliated by another. That's the best show this place has offered him in weeks. Bake keeps pushing, pressing him to just say yes already. Honestly, the whole situation is too funny for Kian to stay indifferent. He pictures the two of them squaring off, both absolutely convinced they're winning. Yeah, battle of brats, he wants to see it. Then something shifts. Kian feels it before he can name it. Something wrong deep in his body. His hand goes to his chest. He staggers. The energy inside him is unstable, and right now it's announcing itself in the worst possible way. The girl flashes through his mind. Right, he needs to find the Starbearers and he needs to move fast. Bake catches the look on his face and snaps. What are you staring at? If you don't want to go, just say so. But Kian is barely listening. He's clocked something. The energy coming off Bake feels familiar, close to what he's been hunting. He decides to check. He straightens up, drops the smirk, and says it flat. He accepts. Bake blinks. That was not the answer he expected. There are two conditions, though. Bake groans but asks anyway. Fine, what are they? First condition, Bake lets him check his pulse. Bake stares. His pulse. Why does a scholar need to check his pulse? Kian keeps it casual. He saw the wisdom broth being prepared. Take that stuff wrong and you can fry your own brain. He's just looking out for him. Bake rolls his eyes. He knows exactly what messing with meridians does, so what is the scholar even getting at? Kian keeps it simple. If the broth clashes with high-level cultivation, that is a problem for everyone involved. That lands. Bake tells him to just check the pulse and get it done. He cannot afford to damage that brilliant brain of his, after all. He makes sure Kian understands exactly how irreplaceable it is. And besides, the scholar has nothing to gain from hurting him, so the trust is extended, however grudgingly. Kian agrees and settles in, pressing his fingers to Bake's wrist with a focused expression. Then quietly he pushes a thread of spiritual energy in, just enough to probe for a reaction. He goes still, concentrated, waiting. Somewhere underneath that calm face, he is hoping this whole trip to the Namgong clan actually pays off. Then he feels it, faint but real. Something in Bake's wrist pulses back. His eyes go wide. That is star energy. one of the 7 he has been hunting. Mu-Bake catches the look on his face and asks what is wrong. Kiin does not answer right away. He needs a second to process what he just found. Then he smiles, maybe a little too wide, and says everything is fine. Brain energy looks great. Mu-Bake gets a strange feeling from that smile but files it away as confirmation that yes, his intellect really is that impressive. He moves on and asks about the second condition for Kiin to attend the gathering. Kiin smiles in that infuriatingly calm way of his and says he wants to watch Mu-Bake train. Mu-Bake blinks. Why would a scholar want to watch him train? Kiin starts to explain. A clan with a lineage like the Namgong. To properly interpret the opportunity they are discussing, he needs to understand the foundations of the clan's other martial arts. Mu-Bake is caught off guard. Scholars usually look down on martial arts as lowbrow, so this is not what he expected. He starts wondering if he's actually looking at a real scholar, one who takes the time to genuinely understand a technique rather than just sneer at it. That thought puts a grin on his face and he makes up his mind. He's having this guy interpret the manual he's currently training with. His logic is pretty casual about it too. Works out, great, doesn't, no big deal. He's practically laughing at himself for even trying. So the young master agrees to let Kiin watch his training, but he's got one condition of his own. Kiin braces for another translation job, but Mu-Bake just tells him to show up tomorrow. That's it, just show up. The scholar agrees and there's this little smirk on his face, like he finds the whole situation quietly entertaining. Next day rolls around and Mu-Bake is still going back and forth in his head about whether to actually hand over the manual. Kiin gets tired of watching him dither and just snatches the book right out of his hand with a glare that says enough. He reads the title and stops cold. It's the Boundless Blue Sky Sword Arts Manual. That's a big deal. This is one of the 2 crown jewels of the Namgong clan, and one of the most respected techniques in all of Murim. Kiin's brain immediately goes to, why does this kid keep handing him classified documents? He studies Mu-Bake with open suspicion. Is the young master completely out of his mind? Mu-Bake, meanwhile, is wearing the smuggest expression imaginable, asking what Kiin thinks of it. Kiin points out the obvious. Is it really okay to show a clan's secret technique to an outsider? Mu-Bake shrugs and basically says no, it's not okay, but he's doing it anyway because he really wants to master this thing. That answer actually shuts Kiin up for a second. He wasn't expecting that level of raw, unfiltered sincerity. Mu-Bake keeps going. With his talent, he says, he ought to be mastering this faster than his brothers. And besides, since Kiin worked at the Alliance, he knows Murim law. He's not going to go running his mouth. Bottom line, the young master doesn't want analysis or commentary. He just wants Kiin to read it and tell him what the technique means. He then offers 300 silver taels if the scholar interprets the manual correctly. Kiin asks if he's paying in heavy coins again, and the young master promises a banknote this time. Deal sealed. Mu-Bake launches into his sword training, fast and hitting hard. He runs through the technique with real force while Kiin hangs back and reads the manual. The scholar's expression shifts mid-read, something in that secret clan text clearly catching him off guard. He's drawn in by the sword art itself, calling it a song to the infinite sky. Meanwhile, Mu-Bake is going absolutely all out, screaming his way through every rep. Kiin watches him with the flattest, most unimpressed look imaginable. Mu-Bake keeps pushing anyway, training with full ferocity, not holding a single thing back. He yells through every movement, grinding out each step of the technique with raw effort. And he keeps going loud, very, very loud. The scholar finally snaps and tells him to keep it down because the screaming is way too much. Mu-Bake winds up for the next move and cuts loose with another war cry. Kiin cuts him off and yells at him to shut up and stop wasting his breath. He lays it out plainly. This sword art runs on conserved breath, and all that shouting is bleeding his energy dry. Mu-Bake goes quiet, caught off guard that the scholar of all people is correcting his form. But he listens and gets back to it, this time in silence. Without the screaming, his movements open up, cleaner and more precise. He runs the technique again and it clicks in a way it hadn't before, and even he can feel the difference. Kiin watches the shift happen in real time, quietly impressed, even though the energy of the Hua Yang star hasn't surfaced yet. He realizes Mu-Bake is genuinely not just some loudmouth brat. There's real potential under all that noise. The scholar grins and tells him to keep training until that energy finally shows itself. Classic Kiin, acting like he's doing the kid a favor. So Mu-Bake gets back to it, launching into leaps and acrobatic sequences midair. He touches down clean and settles into his stance, sword ready for the next form. Face tight with effort, he grinds through the sword technique. No shortcuts, just repetition. Then his sword drops, just falls right out of his hand, and he stares at it like it personally betrayed him. Kiin watches the whole thing with a completely blank face, manual open in his hands like he's waiting for a bus. Bake walks over and says that before today, he never had the breath control to even finish a single form. But he just completed it for the first time ever, and he wants to know how the scholar figured that out. Kiin, completely straight-faced, says he didn't figure out anything. He only said it because the kid was being annoying. Then he adds, almost as an afterthought, that the text says to conserve breath. Basic stuff, really. Bake frowns and says he read that manual dozens of times. He never caught that. Kiin points to a line about a candle flame staying steady and asks why exactly they chose that word. And it clicks. Bake gets it. An unwavering flame means no air escaping. His breath was the problem all along. He's floored. That interpretation isn't even in the clan's official commentary on the technique. He turns to Kiin and says flat out that he couldn't have done the first form without him. But then he admits the forms after that are a wall. He has no idea what they mean. He can go through the motions fine, but without understanding the intent behind each move, he can't actually perform the technique. Kiin smirks and tells him, if he doesn't understand it, why not just run through the whole thing right here? Bake freezes, stares at him, really debating whether the scholar is serious right now. Kiin jabs a finger at him and lays it out plain. He's the teacher, Bake is the student, and there's no lesson happening without basic respect. Then he just turns to leave, casually dropping that maybe he should go tutor young Master Lee instead. Bake is visibly annoyed. Kiin twists the knife by mentioning he heard Bake's older brother practices something similar. So what does it say about him that he can't even show basic respect? And there it is, that calm, knowing smile as Kiin plants the seed right where he wants it. He floats the idea out there. Bake might just be the first member of the direct lineage to ever reach the secret essence of the sword art. Bake's eyes go wide, the first of the entire direct lineage. That lands hard. He clenches his fists. Okay, he's sold. Whatever stubborn attitude he came in with, ambition just bulldozed straight through it. Big grin, zero hesitation. He agrees to show Kiin the technique on the spot. He fumbles the respectful bow while doing it though, and Kiin has to step in and correct him. That's not how it's done, kid. Meanwhile, the clan patriarch is making his way toward the training ground, face tight, clearly expecting the worst. His assumption, his son is probably making this poor scholar's life miserable right now. He's already decided that if Bake is pulling something, he's getting a serious scolding. But then he gets close enough to hear Kiin, calm as ever, telling Bake to run the technique again. He stops and listens from a distance. Kiin is walking his son through the meaning behind the chant, actually teaching him. The patriarch stands there processing this. The scholar is genuinely teaching his son something. And Bake calls him teacher, enthusiastically, no reluctance, no sarcasm. The patriarch looks like he's seen a ghost. His son barely uses honorifics with his own brothers, yet here he is, being polite to a scholar he met 5 minutes ago. The rumor about Kiin turning Pang Solin around, apparently true. He's smiling now, standing back and watching isn't enough. He needs to reward this scholar generously. Kiin pauses and corrects Bake on the name. It's the Boundless Blue Sky Sword Art. Sky is literally in the title, come on. The patriarch freezes. His son just showed a complete stranger the clan's most guarded technique. Not an ally, not a disciple, a scholar. Some random scholar watched his kid perform their secret sword art. That's it, he's done deliberating. He's going to grab both of them right now and deal with this personally. Kiin, meanwhile, is talking Bake through it step by step, telling him to actually think about what he's doing here. Strip out all the noise, he says. Cut every unnecessary branch and the whole thing collapses down to one truth. He's smiling as he says it, completely relaxed, like he's been waiting to explain this the whole time. The patriarch catches Kiin's words from across the courtyard and stops cold. That's not shallow analysis, that's deep. The mountain is high, yes, but it still sits under heaven, and water still runs across the land beneath it. Bake goes quiet and sits down. He's actually chewing on this instead of just swinging his sword around for once. No matter how tall the mountain gets, the sky is still above it. Simple, and somehow that clicks for him. He closes his eyes and goes completely still, not resting, actually searching for the thing at the center of the technique. Then his eyes snap open and they're glowing blue. Something just unlocked. Kiin watches and quietly notes that the kid found the right mental image on the first try. That's faster than expected. The sun starts going down and Bake hasn't moved, still in it, still going deeper. The patriarch is watching from a distance now and his expression has shifted completely. That's his son out there. Kiin, for his part, just keeps reading the manual. calm, unbothered, turning pages like he's got nowhere to be. A long time passes. Bake finally opens his eyes, drenched in sweat but looking sharper than before. His eyes flash gold for a second. He says he thinks he's starting to get it. He smiles and says the path is clearer now. Something in his cultivation clicked into place. The sky holds everything, he says. There's nothing bigger, nothing outside of it. It just takes all things in. Sword raised, he pours the energy of the blue sky straight into this brand new technique he just unlocked. Kian watches quietly, wondering if the path to the essence is finally starting to open up for this kid. Bake grips the sword steady and gets it. The blue sky stretches out with no ceiling, no walls, no end. That's the whole point baked into the name of this sword art. Boundless, no limits, simple as that. His eyes lock in, burning with focus, and he winds up to throw everything he has into this strike. Golden energy detonates off the blade the instant he swings. Clean, explosive, exactly what he was going for. He laughs mid-swing, genuinely thrilled, cutting through the air with a sharpness and power he's never hit before. Big wild grin on his face. He's hyped, and honestly he has every right to be. That was a serious breakthrough. Still buzzing, Bake turns to Kian and asks him to keep going. More wisdom. He wants all of it. Kian just watches him, calm and unreadable, that same quiet expression that somehow always says more than it should. Then with a little smirk, he says a bird flying through the sky has no set way of flapping its wings. The point being, if you want to master this sword art, stop following a script. Cut loose and fly. Kian then twists the knife a bit, pointing out that Bake spent his whole life being a troublemaker, so he should know that feeling better than anyone. That lands, Bake goes quiet, caught off guard by how much weight those words actually carry. He just stares at Kian from across the yard, turning the lesson over in his head, not quite done with it yet. The thought hits him, has living like a scoundrel outside every rule and expectation actually meant he's been free this whole time. He grabs his chest, some big feeling rising up before he can stop it. Then he just starts laughing. Loud, uncontrollable, the kind of laugh that comes from something clicking into place. He says those words are right, and that they genuinely sent a shiver straight through him. Watching from a distance, the patriarch goes still as he realizes his own perception has been flawed and boxed in this whole time. He knows that with such a narrow view, he could never reach the true essence of the sword art. The patriarch walks away, struck by a bitter truth. He never lived freely, and that cage was one he built himself. He leaves carrying something new, a different understanding of himself and the art he has spent his whole life practicing. And then, with a quiet smile, he thinks his youngest son might actually be the first to get there. Bake shouts, barely able to contain himself, demanding to know what this feeling is that he has never felt before. Freedom, he lived like a scoundrel his whole life just to chase it, rejecting everything and everyone around him. But now he has to ask himself, is this what he was actually looking for all along? Kian watches him sprawled on the ground, completely spent, but with this look of pure clarity on his face. The scholar notes the young man is walking a path not unlike Pang Solin's, just moving a lot faster. He smiles and quietly wonders if it might be time to move things to the next stage of his plan. He runs through what he knows. The Big Dipper holds 7 stars, each carrying its own distinct energy. And the most destructive of all is the Broken Army Star, the Martial Star. Those born with the heavenly martial body, he explains, are bound to that star from birth, destined to tear themselves apart and die young, unless they can find a way to change that fate. The only way out is to absorb the energy of the other stars, exactly like he did with Pang Solin. The scene cuts to Kian's quarters, and for once he actually looks worried. He works out that the patriarch overheard his talk with Bake, then catches a faint scent hanging in the air. His whole body goes rigid. That scent belongs to Patriarch Namgung. He has been found out. And the problem is real. An outsider reading a secret manual is not just embarrassing, it is punishable by death. Right on cue, a servant appears with a message. The patriarch is requesting an urgent meal. Now, Kian says he understands, and that he'll go meet the clan leader right away. The servant is left standing there wondering how he already knew about the summons, and why his face looks like he's walking to his own execution. Cut to later, a table piled with delicacies and fresh fruit, the kind of spread you only put out when you want to impress someone. Kian sits there stiff as a bored, tense expression locked in, waiting for the patriarch to show up. The clan leader arrives and welcomes him with this serious, almost theatrical authority that fills the entire room. Then he introduces his wife, seated right beside him, wearing a smile that gives absolutely nothing away. Kian bows respectfully and says it's an honor to meet her. The words are polite, the nerves are visible. The patriarch just stares at him. No smile, no warmth, completely unreadable. The silence is doing a lot of work here. Then suddenly his wife turns on him and asks why he lied to her. Kian goes completely still. He has no idea what's happening between these two and wisely keeps his mouth shut. Turns out the lie was this: her husband never mentioned the scholar was this good-looking. She says she hasn't seen a man like him in years, and she is not hiding it. The patriarch laughs it off, says he gets it now, then turns back to Kian and apologizes for the wait. Kian recovers quickly and says it's no trouble at all, that being invited here is already an honor. The clan leader's wife mentions she's heard of him, that his name even reached the Muram Alliance. She praises him for taking a stand against corruption and abuse of power, calls him admirable with real conviction. Then she asks if he happens to know a poem about fighting injustice, leaning into it like she already suspects he does. He does. She starts reciting it herself and the scene goes soft focus, cherry blossoms floating in from nowhere like the show is just vibing. Kian finishes the thought: injustice cannot stand taller than the pine tree, and the wind will shake it down. The woman lights up and praises him across the board: poetry, calligraphy, painting, music, the full package. Kian smiles back, but it's that tight, slightly pained smile, and says he just picked those up as hobbies along the way. He thinks maybe he was stressing over nothing, tries to relax in front of the couple. Then the patriarch slams his hand on the table without warning, and his wife flinches. She just stares at him, thrown by how fast his mood flipped. Kian goes quiet, holding that tight smile, no idea where this is heading. The patriarch cuts through the small talk: no more pleasantries, this is official business now. He fixes Kian with a hard look and tells him to drop the act and say what actually happened. He lays it out flat, viewing the clan's secret techniques as a capital offense, and he knows Kian did it. Kian is genuinely caught off guard. The patriarch knows everything, and for once he can't keep his face neutral. The clan leader leans in, voice low and threatening, and asks point-blank if he laid eyes on that secret technique. The room goes dead quiet. Kian holds the patriarch's furious gaze and doesn't blink. The patriarch repeats himself, angrier this time, and waits for Kian to crack. Kian figures it out fast. The patriarch already knew about his talk with Bake. He's cornered. The pressure in the room is suffocating. Kian's mind is already spinning through every possible exit. He scans the situation, looking for any angle that gets him out of this alive. Then it clicks: appeal to the wife. Bake is her weakness, and Kian knows exactly how to use that. He keeps his voice calm and respectful. Yes, he saw the manual, but it was at the young master's personal request. The patriarch isn't buying it. Is that seriously the only excuse he has for a capital offense? Kian pushes back. He saw something in Bake's eyes the moment that sword art came out. Pure desperation. Right then he says he knew this technique was the one thing that could actually turn Bake around. The patriarch scoffs. Is he really claiming he peeked at a forbidden technique just to reform some troublemaker? Kian fires back with a proverb: remove one evil and 10 virtues grow in its place. The patriarch is not buying it. He accuses Kian of cooking up excuses just to peek at the clan's secret arts and do his son a favor. Kian shakes that off. No, he says, that was not all of it. There was something else he saw in the young master. He tells the patriarch straight he saw the temperament of a hero in Bake, the real kind, someone with the potential to shake the world. Kian pushes further, saying the young man could even surpass Pang Solin in greatness one day. The patriarch's wife goes completely still. Her son, comparable to the genius Pang Solin, she can barely process it. And Kian knows exactly what he's doing. That little dark smile says it all. He just found the mother's weak spot and pressed it perfectly. The patriarch is still skeptical. He pushes back, asking if his son is not just a mediocre kid with a little bit of talent and nothing more. Kian explains it differently. The young master, he says, has a free soul, but he was made to live like a bird locked in a cage. Kept in that cage long enough, even a bird forgets it can fly. It starts thinking it's just a chicken, just a duck, nothing special. That lands hard on the mother. Her son was not just being reckless. He was acting out to beat back his own self-loathing. She is visibly shaken. The patriarch still looks unconvinced. He wants to believe it, maybe, but the whole story feels a little too convenient, a little too neat. His wife turns on him immediately. She tells him flat out, the scholar is right. She asks genuinely whether anyone in this clan has ever actually tried to understand what their son was feeling, whether anyone worried about him. Tears start forming. She thinks about how suffocated he must have felt, how completely alone and misunderstood all this time. Then she turns to Kian and thanks him sincerely for being the one to finally show her what was going on inside her son's heart. The patriarch slams back into the conversation. He reminds everyone loudly that one of the clan's secret arts is still out there. Leaked, that is not nothing. His wife replies calmly that she is not a martial artist. She does not fully understand the weight of that. She gets it on paper, but not in her bones. What she does understand is being a mother. and as a mother, she would sell every single manual in the clan without a second thought if it brought her son back whole. Kian has gone completely silent. He came in with a plan, said his piece, and somehow ended up watching the whole table flip on its own. He did not see this coming. Then the patriarch's wife slams her hand on the table and demands a punishment for the scholar. Her proposal: cut off one arm and call it even. Kian looks like he just heard someone suggest cutting off his arm, because that is exactly what just happened. The patriarch says nothing. He just stares at her with this unreadable expression, completely stone-faced. So Kian stands up and makes a solemn vow he will never leak the clan's arts. Not a word, not a hint. He goes further. He says if he ever breaks that promise, they can take both arms and he will hold no resentment whatsoever. The patriarch holds for a beat, then says he'll give him one chance, and then drops a new challenge on the table. The Jude clan is visiting tomorrow. They are going to request a duel, specifically to humiliate his son. The patriarch explains the problem plainly. His youngest has never once beaten the young master of the Jude clan. Not once. Kian reads the room immediately. His job is to make Namgung Mu Baek win that duel tomorrow. The patriarch confirms it and then makes an offer that is genuinely hard to refuse. He is willing to appoint Kian to a position that grants him direct access to the clan's secret techniques. Kian is stunned, but he is not naive. Access like that does not come free. The patriarch lays out the other side of the deal plainly. Fail tomorrow and he pays with his head. He points directly at Kian and says a man of his caliber already knows exactly what this means. Kian goes quiet. He is processing a genuine life or death offer sitting right in front of him. He figures it out fast. The patriarch wants to keep him close but needs a reason to justify it. The couple watches him think. Kian realizes the patriarch needs an excuse, something to sell to the elders. That justification is making Mu Baek win. A concrete result the elders cannot argue with. The patriarch puts it simply: if Kian can truly give his son wings, then the boy can fly freely. Kian gives a deep bow to both the patriarch and his wife. Respect given, deal accepted. He turns and walks out, leaving the couple alone with that hanging in the air. The patriarch and his wife watch him go, both with that quiet, contemplative look on their faces. His wife pulls him into a hug and calls him out. She knows he was planning to keep Kian around the whole time. She asks point blank, did he intend to bring Kian on from the very start? The patriarch hugs her back and turns it around. Does she know why the scholar came to their clan in the first place? He lays it out. Kian is someone who stood up to the Murim Alliance elders and refused to bend under every threat thrown at him. He adds that this is the same man who took Pang Solin from a complete wreck and turned her into someone worth knowing. His wife lights up hearing that her husband deliberately brought someone this remarkable to their son's side. The patriarch just grins, says he's glad she approves, and pulls her clothes. Cut to the next day, the clan courtyard is packed. The delegation from the Juge clan rolls in, led by someone who clearly knows how to make an entrance. Greetings are exchanged, pleasantries fly around, and the mood shifts toward the coming friendly duel. The young master of the Juge clan glances around and asks where Mu Baek is. Why hasn't he shown up yet? He answers his own question with a smug little grin, basically saying he can't wait to play with him. Meanwhile, Mu Baek is grinding hard in training, sword in hand, Kian watching over every move. Kian isn't just watching form, he's pushing Mu Baek to actually think about what each movement means, not just run through the motions. Mu Baek shouts through the effort and pushes himself harder, something clearly clicking under Kian's guidance. Then the courtyard gate opens and one of the guests strolls in with that unmistakable "I'm looking for trouble" energy. Kian and Mu Baek don't even glance over, they keep training. The Juge clan's young master walks in and immediately has opinions about the Namgung gate. Too short, too plain, not impressive enough for his taste. With a smirk, he calls Mu Baek little brother Namgung and immediately starts poking at him. Kian watches from the side, quietly entertained by the nickname this guy just slapped on his student. Mu Baek squares up anyway, expression locked in, already treating this like a real duel. Judge Do presses him further, asking if he even bothered training this time and pointing out he doesn't exactly look thrilled. Mu Baek shoots back that he's been waiting for exactly this rematch. Kian sizes up the newcomer and quietly notes he didn't seem this tall back at the Alliance. Judge Do asks Mu Baek if he's maybe shrunk a little. Mu Baek fires back asking if he's just grown. Judge Do settles it by patting him on the head and announcing that little brother Namgung has gotten even cuter. Mu Baek's patience runs out fast. He demands to know if this guy seriously showed up just to gloat about his height. Judge Do looks genuinely offended, Brag about something that trivial, please. He has a proper list: martial arts, scholarship, music, take your pick. Baek clenches both fists and calls him out for being arrogant. The fight is about to start. Then Judge Do shifts his gaze over to Kian and asks point blank if that's where all this new confidence is coming from. He zeroes in on the scholar standing there, fan in hand, not even bothering to acknowledge him, and that clearly gets under his skin. He shouts across the yard demanding the scholar's name, and he wants it now. Kian turns slowly, completely unbothered, and introduces himself as Jinti-san. Judge Do repeats the name, then gets annoyed all over again, saying this scholar has a short tongue on top of everything else. He decides he's fixing both of their attitudes today and gets ready for the duel. Then it hits him, Jinti-san. He freezes, the name suddenly clicking into place. Judge Do stands there in genuine shock, realizing he's looking at the famous ghostly scholar of the Muram Alliance. That throws him completely. Why would someone as famous as Kian even be at the Namgung clan right now? The three young masters are face to face in the training yard. Nobody moves. The air just sits there heavy. Then it clicks for Du Wan. This is the guy who actually managed to turn Brother Pang around. That's not a small thing. Kian just smiles and asks why he's staring at him like he's looking at a ghost. The rival says he figured Kian would be over at the Pang clan. Pang Solin had told him she was bringing him there. So he starts wondering out loud, maybe the scholar isn't as impressive as everyone says. Maybe that's why he got dropped. Du Wan finds the whole thing suspicious either way. Elder Gao openly despises Kian, so how did Kian just walk out of the alliance without a scratch? Kian smiles and answers simply, he goes where he decides to go. And right now he says he has business to take care of here. At this clan, this exact place. The rival pivots and asks if this is technically their first real meeting. Because he's heard so many rumors about Kian, it honestly feels like they go way back. Kian tells him they've actually crossed paths a few times at the alliance already. The young master just probably never noticed. Then he drops it casually. The inspection bureau opened a file on Du Wan after that incident he caused. Du Wan's expression flips immediately. He calls Kian out for having the nerve to say that to his face in front of everyone. Kian ducks behind his fan and says it was his mistake. Old habits, he sighs. Then, with a perfectly constructed apologetic smile, he says he must have upset him without meaning to. A flawless non-apology. Du Wan is getting visibly more irritated by the second. The smug routine is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Kian then casually brings up the math. Du Wan is 1 year older than Baek, sure, but Kian himself is 2 years older than Du Wan. The young master is absolutely furious. The sheer disrespect radiating off this scholar is something else. Still, somewhere behind the anger, Du Wan has to admit it. This guy had the nerve to stand up to even Elder Gao. He scoffs at the idea of calling Kian anything respectful just because the man has 2 years on him. Like that counts for anything. Duil says he'll stay casual, and if Kian wants to match that, go ahead. Kian just smiles and says sure, he's the older one here anyway. Duil stares, finger pointed, completely floored by the audacity. Baek can't believe it either. Speaking casually to direct lineage of one of the 5 great clans, nobody does that. And then it clicks for him, this isn't a performance. Kian genuinely just does not care. Baek grins and admits it out loud. That stubborn fearlessness from his tutor, he respects it. Kian then flips the switch to his cold, unsettling mode and asks Duil plainly, does he have a problem with the informality? Duil is visibly rattled. That dark aura is no joke. Kian watches him and asks again whether he should start being formal instead. Duil clears his throat, pulls himself together and pivots hard. Lunch, noon, let's do lunch, shall we? He tells Baek he'll see him in the garden, then casually tosses Kian an invite too, since apparently he finds him interesting. As Duil turns to leave, Kian calls after him and thanks him for seeing him in a good light. Then he adds one more thing, little Duil says he's funnier than he expected. Duil stops dead in his tracks. Young master of one of the great clans, and this scholar just slapped a cute nickname on him. He's shaking, but he doesn't turn around. Can't let anyone see that it actually got to him. He forces a smile, jaw tight, and makes himself a quiet promise. That cheeky scholar is going to answer for this. Baek watches Duil walk off while Kian just stands there, completely unbothered. Baek goes quiet for a moment, trying to figure out what he just witnessed. Then he snaps out of it and rushes straight toward Kian, completely hyped up. Baek is all grins, telling Kian he's even more incredible than he originally gave him credit for. Then the questions start flying. Did Kian really put Elder Gao in his place? And is he seriously provoking duel on top of that? Running to keep up, Mubake fires off another one. Is it true he turned brother Pang Solin back into a human being? Kian smirks and points out that his student's tongue seems to have found its honorifics all on its own. Mubake says after watching that manual breakdown and how Kian handled Judge Do-won, he couldn't help but respect him. The scholar takes it. Good change. Mubake scratches his head and admits that even though his tutor says he's changed, he honestly can't feel it himself. Kian mentions that Pang Solin was the same way at first, and Mubake immediately tenses up. Don't say that guy's name so casually. He's genuinely scared. Unlike him, he says, Pang Solin throws the first punch. The scholar could actually get hurt. Kian just replies calmly that he and Pang Solin aren't friends. Then with a little smile, he drops it. Pang Solin actually calls him Big Brother. Mubake isn't buying it. That guy looks at scholars like they're street dogs, he says. Kian tells terrible jokes. The scholar just stares back at him, doesn't confirm it, doesn't deny it, just lets that hang in the air. Mubake goes completely silent, pointing at him, mouth open, totally short-circuited by the possibility. He snaps out of it and practically shouts, "Wait, is that actually real?" Scene shift, the two of them arrive at a wide garden with a grand pavilion sitting at the edge of a calm lake. Kian takes it in and asks if this is the famous demon subjugation garden. Mubake confirms it and starts telling the story, going all the way back 50 years. In a flashback, warriors clash against a demonic cult that tore through the martial world. He explains that the Namgung clan's ancestors fought right on the front lines, but most of them fell in a catastrophic defeat. That loss, he says with a heavy look, is the main reason the boundless blue sky sword arc was never fully passed down. They named the garden this way so the clan would never forget the resentment and the will of the ancestors who died there. Kian takes it in and says it's a place that carries real weight for the clan's history. Inside the pavilion, Do-won is already settled in, lounging to music with a courtesan right beside him. Mubake is not happy. His rival had the nerve to call courtesans into the demon subjugation garden of all places. He goes straight at Do-won. Anyone walking by would think he owned the place, calling courtesans here like this. Do-won fires back in his own clan. Even a direct descendant like him can't just snap his fingers and get courtesans. But here, the Namgung clan hands them to a stranger. Bold. A musician plays softly in the background as Do-won keeps laying on the compliments about the Namgung clan's generosity. Mubake is absolutely seething. Fists clenched, he's one more word away from throwing hands. Kian steps in, puts a hand on Mubake's chest, and quietly tells him to cool it. He's got that calm smile going. Completely unbothered, he tells Mubake to relax because he'll take care of everything. Mubake's only job right now is to sit back and watch whatever his rival tries to pull. Kian strolls over and greets Do-won with a little nickname, asking if he's been enjoying himself. Do-won doesn't love the nickname, you can tell, but he keeps his composure. Can't lose face in front of everyone. Kian, still wearing that smile, turns and waves for Mubake to come on inside and join the party. Mubake hesitates for just a beat, clearly not thrilled, but he follows his master in anyway. Then someone lets out an excited shout, getting amped up for the competition that's about to start. Then Do-won reaches out and stops the musician cold. That music, please, don't make him laugh with that. He takes the instrument himself and stands up. Time to show everyone how it's actually done. He explains it simply. He was bored waiting alone, so he called for a pipa performance. He gives a cold look and says he figured he'd have the musician play for little brother Mubake and scholar Kian. With nimble fingers, Do-won sets into the strings and starts playing a real melody on the instrument. The soft music drifts through the pavilion and the room goes quiet, every eye on him. Eyes closed, he lets the melody take over completely. Every bit of his focus is poured into the performance. In the background, a few men stop to watch. The young master has their full attention. Meanwhile, Kian and Mubake just sit back and listen, both looking completely unbothered. Then the rival catches himself and smirks. Guess he was thinking too small. He uses that opening to needle Mubake directly, saying someone who only trains probably can't appreciate music at all. Mubake bites and gets annoyed. The rival throws out a hollow little apology for being inconsiderate. Kian sips his tea and reads it instantly. The rival wants Mubake rattled before the duel. The rival then offers to personally explain the music to his ignorant little brother. But Kian beats him to it, calmly noting that this piece is a famous morning composition by a great artist. The Jude clan's young master blinks, didn't expect the tutor to know that, he says so out loud. Kian smiles and says he knows all 10 of the great songs, plays them too. The rival glances toward the garden and announces with a flourish that she has arrived right on cue. Kian and Mu Baek exchange a look. Who exactly is he talking about? The rival explains himself. A performance this good deserves to be witnessed properly, not just heard. And with that smug grin, he reveals he also invited a very special guest. He introduces the greatest courtesan of a fae, who makes her entrance with full composure. One of the men in the crowd recognizes her right away. That's Qiang Yo from the Celestial Pleasure Pavilion. She walks in gracefully, her attendants trailing behind her. Qiang Yo turns on the charm immediately, greeting everyone with a smile that stops the room. Mu Baek is hooked the moment she walks in. Kian observes her with no particular reaction. Kian figures his rival didn't invite the famous courtesan to be nice. This is a pure authority flex. The rival wants her to judge his music and show off in front of everyone. Kian sees right through it. So with that smug grin, the rival invites the whole crowd to have their musical talents evaluated by a real expert. Then he turns to Scholar Kian with a smile and says he's very much looking forward to seeing the scholar perform. Out in the garden, the crowd starts gathering. Everyone wants front row seats for this clash of young masters. Two men show up at the scene, and one of them chimes in about this year's friendly duel. The other one scoffs as if it isn't already obvious who's going to win. Same as every year. But the first man pushes back. This year is different, he says. Something's about to change. He then asks whether young Master Mu Baek has finally had some kind of breakthrough. The patriarch's companion gives a small shrug and says the kid has at least started thinking for once. The man from the Jude clan gives an ironic little smile and just says, "Is that so?" Then he suggests that since this duel represents both clans, they might as well make it interesting with a bet. He lays out his terms. Whoever loses the duel hands over the loading rights to the escort agency. The patriarch's companion clocks it immediately. The guy's a snake, trying to settle a real dispute with one cheap duel. But he just smiles, accepts the bet, and says the whole thing sounds like a lot of fun. The man from the Jude clan smirks. As far as he's concerned, he's already won this one. Then the courtesan steps forward, thanks them for the invitation, and introduces herself properly as Zhang Yael. Do-won grins with satisfaction and announces that everything's in place. The audience has gathered. He then says that the greatest musician in ManhwaCapped has also arrived to judge the duel. With that, Do-won officially kicks things off and hands all judging over to Lady Zhang Yael. He turns to Kian with a smile and asks if the scholar's feeling any nerves. Kian literally has a piece of fruit in his mouth when he answers. Barely nervous, not even close. He says he's actually looking forward to playing. Then, with that signature mischievous smile, he throws out a condition. If they're competing, they should both play the same song. That lands. The Jude clan's young master is clearly caught off guard, already trying to work out what angle Kian is running. Kian just sits there, instrument in hand, watching his rival. Waiting, no rush. Do-il thinks it over and agrees, but with a catch. He gets to pick the song. And his pick is White Snow in Early Spring, one of the 10 great songs. He's basically asking, can you even hang at this level? Kian's response is almost insulting. That song, basic. He's played it a few times, nothing special. He says it with a smile, completely unbothered. No problem with that song whatsoever. Do-il isn't buying it. That piece doesn't bend to casual practice. You don't master it in a few tries, and he knows exactly what that means. The smile drops. With a hateful glare locked on Kian, he makes a decision right there. He's going to stomp him so completely that he'll never dare challenge him again. Eyes closed, Do-il raises the instrument and begins to play. Full concentration, nothing held back. The notes start climbing out into the pavilion one by one, and the whole space shifts. A courtesan attendant notices it first. The airflow in the room changed the moment he started playing. She can't even see him, she says, but she can picture every note landing like a snowflake. The melody rolls through the garden and the crowd is genuinely impressed. This guy can actually play. The audience goes completely quiet. Every person pulled into the rival's performance. The notes keep coming one after another and the whole scene just settles, like the garden is holding its breath. One man wonders out loud if instruments are the weapon of choice this year. His companion figures it's just a warm-up, a bit of fun before the real duel kicks off. The man from the Jude clan is loving this. He praises Do-won specifically for the tactic, using music to crush an opponent's spirit before the real duel even begins. He asks if young master Mu-Bake is also musical. His companion just shrugs and says he's never seen Mu-Bake pick up an instrument in his life. Then the Namgung clan rep clocks what's happening. It's not Mu-Bake stepping up, it's his writing teacher. The rival blinks, a writing teacher. Who in the world is this guy? Do-won wraps up his performance and immediately starts talking about himself. His skill, he declares, has already reached a master's level. Kian's response, he digs a finger in his ear and cleans it out. Pure boredom, the rival's eye twitches. He can't believe it. This guy who can barely string together a proper note has the nerve to look that unbothered. Do-won tells him fine, go ahead, step up and embarrass yourself in front of everyone watching. And then Kian plays fast, aggressively fast. The tempo hits like a blizzard rushing in out of nowhere. His fingers blur across the strings and actual energy starts pouring out of the instrument. Not metaphorically, physically. The music turns into an actual snowstorm. The whole pavilion gets swallowed by it, wall to wall, no escape from it. One of the courtesans watching leans in and comments on it. The tempo, the internal energy woven into every single note. The crowd is stunned. This isn't background music anymore. It's filling the entire space and pressing against everyone in it. The man from the Jude clan shifts slightly in his seat. He admits Do-won's skill is genuinely impressive for his age. He explains why Do-won used to be a nightmare to deal with, so he pushed him into music to channel all that chaos somewhere useful. And somewhere along the way, the kid just got good enough to mimic the masters. He tells Do-won to go for the throat early. Break the opponent's spirit before the duel even has a chance to breathe. Do-won is happy to oblige. He turns to Kian and invites him to go ahead and put his pathetic skills on display. Kian just picks up his instrument. Somewhere in the crowd, a man leans over and asks his wife who she thinks is going to walk away from this one. She smiles like she already knows the answer. Do-won's technique is solid, she says, but Scholar Kian is still going to win. The man goes quiet for a second, clearly caught off guard by how certain his wife sounds. She just shrugs and calls it women's intuition. Kian smiles, settles in, and starts playing. No dramatics, no warm-up posturing, just calm hands on the instrument and immediately impressive output. He sits there completely absorbed in the music, while Mu-Bake watches him like he's seeing his teacher for the first time. Eyes closed, the scholar stops thinking and just plays. The melody comes out of him like he's not even trying. Do-won's expression cracks mid-performance. He was not expecting that from the other side of the room. The courtesan's attendant leans in and points out that they're playing the exact same song, but it sounds nothing alike. She breaks it down. Do-won's version was all white snow and cold stillness. Kian's reads like spring arrived early. Mu-Bake is genuinely stunned. He mouths his teacher's name like he can't quite believe what he's hearing. The rival keeps his composure and admits the performance is decent, then adds that Kian still has no shot against him. A golden aura blooms around Kian as he plays. The mastery is getting harder to ignore with every note. Do-won's eyes burn with fury. He decides subtlety is done and announces he's about to bury everything under a storm of fast music. A wave of blue energy rips off his instrument, aimed straight at Kian's performance like a musical wrecking ball. Kian sees it coming and actually smiles. He thinks to himself that hotheads are genuinely entertaining when you poke them right. Then he decides to use that energy wave. He draws spiritual energy down to his fingertips, quiet and methodical, getting ready to hit back. One clean motion, a wave of golden energy launches off his instrument and meets the blue head-on. The courtesan stares and says it out loud. The snow is vanishing in front of Kian's music. Golden butterflies start appearing out of nowhere, drifting over the audience, and the crowd loses it. Kian leans back satisfied and notes almost to himself that the melody really does produce 7 distinct atmospheres. He plays well, he admits. As expected. The audience erupts. Both musicians get the full treatment, cheering, praise, the whole crowd caught up in what just happened. Kian is already thinking about applications. If he can channel this energy properly, it could be useful in a lot of contexts, including, apparently, the kitchen. The rival is not taking this well. He's fuming, and he demands the courtesan deliver her verdict right now. Instrument still clutched in his hands, he stands up and calls on the courtesan to render judgment. She says the performances were magnificent, then passes the real verdict off to her attendant. She explains the girl lost her sight, but in exchange gained hearing that puts ordinary people to shame. The rival bristles. Is she seriously implying a blind girl has a sharper ear than him, the best in the house? He scoffs outright. The idea of a blind child judging his playing is almost an insult. Then almost in the same breath, he pivots. Fine, since she can't see, at least the result will be unbiased. He tells the girl to speak up and deliver her verdict on both performances. Kian sighs and turns. The rival jumps in, asking point blank which of the two songs was superior. The room goes dead silent, everyone waiting on the blind young musician's word. The rival stares her down with total confidence, already certain he's about to win this. The attendant admits she can't see, so she genuinely doesn't know who played which piece. But then she smiles and says, even so, she saw everything clearly. She describes it, snow all around and then spring breaking through, the snowflakes turning into butterflies. The rival goes rigid. Is she actually saying he lost to that scholar? He whips around and fixes Kian with a look of pure, barely processed rage. He's sweating now. He cannot wrap his head around getting beaten by a complete rookie. The young master of the Jude clan says nothing, just standing there absorbing the full weight of his defeat. Kian turns to the attendant and says that ever since he first learned music, he has been searching for his Zhang Ziqi. He says it seems like his Zhang Ziqi was right here all along, then asks for her name. She wasn't expecting that. The young woman flushes red, caught off guard by the compliment, while the scholar just watches her with that quiet smile. She gathers herself and introduces herself as Song Ran, quickly adding that she's just a blind girl, hardly worthy of being called someone's Zhang Ziqi. Then someone shoots to their feet furiously and yells at Mu Baek across the garden, demanding to know what he thinks he's doing. He challenges Mu Baek to a duel on the spot, tells him to grab a wooden sword and says they're starting right now. Mu Baek watches him go off and just shakes his head. The guy's completely lost it, screaming like a madman. The other guy isn't taking that lying down though. He slams a fist into the bench and calls Mu Baek a scoundrel. Mu Baek just leaps straight onto the dueling ground and throws the insult right back at him without missing a beat. He lands with a solid thud, already locked in, feet planted, ready to go. The ground actually cracks under his feet as he settles into his stance, eyes fixed on his opponent. He grins and asks if they want to find out how much each of them has grown since last year. The opponent blinks, clearly caught off guard, realizes he's being provoked right back, and just barely stops himself from taking the bait. Kian watches from the side and notes that this kid is suddenly acting very full of himself. He wraps up his goodbyes to the courtesan and says he needs to get over there fast. He smiles, gives both women a proper farewell, and heads off. The attendant turns to her mistress the moment he's gone, saying she felt something from that gentleman. She says she felt a strange, very particular energy coming off Scholar Kian. The courtesan nods, saying his appearance alone is remarkable, and yeah, something about him just feels different. Kian walks over to Mu Baek, and the two line up for the duel. The garden has basically turned into a spectator arena at this point. Everyone's watching as the two young masters square up, with Kian and Mu Baek taking their place on one side. The crowd watches with anticipation as the two clans face off, waiting to see who makes the first move. Mu Baek turns to his master mid-prep and says he actually has a question about the sword art. He says that while listening to the music earlier, he caught a faint feeling of the fourth form. He thinks he's close to grasping it, but something's still not clicking, and he wants to know if he's even pointed in the right direction. Kian considers it and tells him that the fourth form he's sensing lines up with the story of Boya. Cue flashback, the legendary musician Boya, who snapped the strings of his own instrument the day his closest friend died. Kian lays it out. Just like Boya needed someone who truly understood his music, the sword art works the same way. Understanding is the whole point. And here's the kicker: to unlock the fourth form, Mu Baek has to become Zhang Ziqi. He has to be the one who understands Boya. That's when Dawan's voice cuts in from across the field, yelling about whether Mu Baek is seriously learning martial arts from a scholar. He scoffs, asks why Kian talks so much, and throws out that maybe Mu Baek is just digging for weaknesses. Nearby, the patriarch's companion watches all of this without a word, expression tight and unreadable. Mu Baek picks up his wooden sword and says, flat and calm, that you can learn martial arts from anyone, including a scholar. He keeps going. The path of the sword doesn't belong exclusively to warriors, and for someone from a clan that prizes scholarship above all else. He tells Dawan his thinking is just too small, and punctuates it by leveling the sword at him. Dawan blinks, then gets mad. He can't believe this guy is seriously challenging him right now. The man from the Jude clan mutters to himself that sure, they call Dawan a hidden dragon, but his personality is genuinely awful. The patriarch is visibly stunned, watching his youngest son dress down a rival using pure logic. Then it hits him: Mu Baek has changed a lot since Kian showed up. He files that away and appreciates it more than he lets on. Mu Baek turns the idea over in his head. Does he actually have to become Zhang Ziqi? Does he have to understand Daowon on that level? He thinks harder. Does that mean he has to think of Daowon as his boya, the one he needs to truly comprehend? The thought hits him like a slap and he recoils. Why on earth would he ever want to understand that punk? The rival is losing his patience. Baek isn't even flinching, and apparently that's more offensive than getting hit. Then it clicks for Baek. To fight like Zhang Ziqi, he can't just study the techniques. He has to understand the person throwing them. The rival sees him drift into thought mid-fight and nearly loses it. The audacity of this guy. Baek shifts his focus entirely. Forget the sword forms. What kind of person is his rival at his core? No time to keep thinking. The rival from the Jude clan lunges, sword leading, shouting a warning about his legs. The attack is fast, violent, eyes flaring blue with energy. This one means business. Baek watches it come with a calm face and one quiet thought. This guy is despicable. Because until now, he'd only been trying to read his fighting style. That's not enough. To actually beat him, he needs to understand how the rival thinks, how he acts, what he goes for when the pressure's on. And just like that, he dodges cleanly. No scrambling, no near miss, smooth. The rival blinks, asks if all Baek's been doing is training to run away. Then comes the smirk and the bait. So you're not attacking because you're scared, right? Baek catalogs it immediately. Yes, despicable, the type who goes straight for the psychological weak spot with words. Watching him try to bait him like that is honestly kind of sad. Baek smiles, and it's not a nice smile. He catches himself thinking, has he grown enough to see through this? Apparently yes. So he tosses it right back. He was just checking whether the rival's skills had improved at all. Casual. That does it. The rival snaps, screams something about dying, and launches a full commit attack. Baek raises an eyebrow and asks, very politely, if death threats are really appropriate for a friendly duel. The rival doesn't answer. He just pours everything into one swing, blue energy pouring off the blade. Baek watches it coming and thinks, even this is a lie, even the attack itself is deception. He sees right through it. The rival is faking a dig at the left side, pure misdirection. But the guy has a trick. Those long arms snap out like a whip, turning his reach into a variable attack nobody sees coming. Baek tracks the real line instantly. The neck, that is the actual target, and he is already adjusting to block. He grins and tells him, now that he has got his personality and martial style figured out, every move he makes is basically telegraphed. Do-won's jaw practically drops. His entire plan just got read like a children's book. Baek pushes forward. He knows if he keeps needling this guy, the rival will feel cornered and go for the dominance play. He has already mapped it out. The rival is going to lean on raw power to reassert control and grind him down. Sure enough, the young master of the Jade clan throws a heavy attack. Baek brushes it off without blinking. The rival presses anyway, blade lit up with green energy, and throws out the classic, let's see you escape my sword now. He follows through with a fast, full-force strike aimed straight at Baek. And in a blink, Baek catches the sword with his bare hands, just grabs it. He smiles and asks who exactly is running here. He is just holding the sword. Then he steps in, intercepts clean, and locks Do-won's wrist in a grip that goes nowhere. Do-won stares at his own captured wrist. The humiliation hits harder than the hold. Baek grins, his turn now. He drives the sword handle straight into Do-won's face. Clean, efficient, zero mercy. Someone from the Jade clan screams for him to stop. Baek ignores it, lands one precise disarming strike, and the sword is gone. He lets go of the wrist and steps back. Duel over, winner obvious. Baek walks off with that easy smile, and Do-won just stands there watching him go, completely defeated. He calls it their friendly duel his win, simple as that. The crowd erupts for the young master, who just proved he can fight as smart as he can fight hard. The Judge clan representative just stands there, stone-faced, completely unable to process that his prodigy just lost. The patriarch is thrilled, declaring his youngest son beat Do in a clean one-on-one duel. He turns to Kian and thanks him for the guidance, giving the scholar full credit. Baek is pumped and says it's exactly like the scholar told him. It all comes down to thinking and actually understanding what you're doing. Do can't accept it. There's no way that was his opponent's real skill level. He's convinced Kian is pulling strings behind the scenes somehow, running some kind of trick. Meanwhile, Kian is in the garden, completely relaxed, fanning himself like a man without a care in the world. He glances up with a bored look, mildly wondering if the fight is even over yet. Baek holds his sword high and declares victory loud enough for everyone to hear. He talks about mountains and flowing water, how he never bothered to understand what came naturally. He admits it plainly. Before, he never cared about grasping the essence of anything. But now that he gets it, he can see the path forward. the fourth form is about understanding yourself. He spins around with a big grin and asks his master if he's got it right. Kian looks at him with absolutely zero interest and starts fanning himself harder. Mubake blinks, thrown off. What is that look? Why does his teacher look this bored right now? He deflates a little, genuinely wondering if someone like him is still just not good enough. Do walks over and his opening line is basically, "There's no way he won on skill alone." He doubles down with an angry look, insisting that if it had been real swords, he would have won. The young master just tilts his head and asks why he's so upset, offering to call it a draw if it matters that much. His rival gets even more wound up, demanding to know how his moves were read and whether that scholar taught him to do it. From a distance, Kian watches this whole thing unfold and wonders why they still have so much to say when the duel is already done. He's visibly annoyed at this point, muttering to himself about why they can't just wrap up the conversation and leave. Mubake, playing it cool, offers his opponent another shot tomorrow if he really can't accept the outcome. His rival blinks, actually caught off guard by that, and starts weighing whether to take the rematch. Sword still in hand, he grits his teeth and agrees, saying tomorrow he'll find out once and for all if Mubake can actually crack his clan's techniques. He's fuming as he says it, shouting that he will expose whether any of that was real knowledge or just luck. From a safe distance, Kian watches and dryly notes that his rival is exactly like a kid with a hammer who sees every single thing as a nail. With a smirk, he adds that young Master Namgung Hak looks precisely like that right now. That does it. The rival snaps, turns, and charges straight at Kian, wooden sword raised. He's yelling that he left that scholar alone, and somehow the guy still won't stop poking at him. He swings at Kian with the wooden sword, but Mubake steps in and cuts him off before the blow lands. Mubake clocks what's happening immediately and thinks this punk is just taking his frustration out on Scholar Kian. That's enough for him. He rushes forward, declaring he can't just stand there and let this happen. He throws himself in front of the strike, absorbs the impact, and coolly points out that his master still has plenty of manuals left to interpret. Then he shifts stance and launches the fourth form of the boundless blue sky sword art, ready to answer back. With a burst of speed that barely looks real, Mubake slips around his opponent's attack entirely. His rival stands there stunned, unable to process how that was even possible, muttering that there is no way he just got outpaced. The patriarch, watching quietly from the side, straightens up and wonders aloud if what he just saw was the blue lightning splitting the sea technique. Kian watches with a quiet, satisfied smile. His student really was born for this. The young master doesn't care. War cry out, sword up, he charges straight in and connects. One brutal blow sends his opponent crashing to the ground, completely out. The rival explodes, screaming, "Scoundrel rookie." He cannot believe he lost again. Sword back in hand, shaking with rage, he winds up for one final desperate attack. The rival screams, "Swallow this," and launches his sword directly at Kian, going for blood. The blade cuts through the air at full speed, aimed right at the scholar sitting there like he's on a park bench. Mubake yells a frantic warning, completely blindsided by the sudden projectile. Kian just watches it come, no flinch, no panic, just that same calm expression. Here's the thing, those born with the heavenly martial body perceive the world on a completely different level. Sharp enough to track individual raindrops mid-fall if they want to. And right now, Kian is channeling that into a barrier of crackling blue energy around himself. He can read every millimeter of that sword's path as it closes in. One clean sidestep and it grazes right past him. He grins, mutters, "Close one," then releases a wave of blue energy from both hands. The man from the Jude clan is watching all this from a distance and cannot figure out how that sword got over there. The patriarch barely ducks it in time, but the raw force behind the attack leaves him visibly shaken. Both wooden swords are now planted in the ground. That confrontation is over. The Jude clan man stands up and insists he's fine. The patriarch stares at him, not convinced. The Namgung clan leader caught something the others missed. That sword had a rotation on it, and that rotation is what made it hit so much harder. He figures it out. The rotation was applied to the sword mid-swing, while the blade was already in motion. And because Kian's sleeve covered the whole move, from the outside it looked like a plain dodge. But the sword came back out carrying far more force than it went in with. Then it clicks, the fifth form of the sword art, the ascension of the blue dragon. His jaw drops. The patriarch can't wrap his head around it. Kian didn't just read the opening, he actually pulled off the technique. He keeps telling himself that knowing the theory and executing it in a real fight are completely different things. Has to be a fluke, right? The Jude clan elder isn't buying it either. Even for an unparalleled genius, what just happened shouldn't be possible. He spins around and tears into Dawon for refusing to accept the loss and dragging the clan's name through the mud. Dawon drops his head, his master drives it home. You have to know how to lose. Standing there sweaty and red-faced, Dawon looks less like a clan prodigy and more like a kid who picked the wrong fight. Then he goes down on his knees, completely drained, no fight left in him at all. Mewbake is absolutely eating this up. He announces he pulled off blue lightning splitting the sea on his very first attempt. Grinning ear to ear, he declares that, as expected, he is a peerless genius, humble as always. The Jude clan elder cuts the celebration short and tells the patriarch he has to leave right now. The Namgung patriarch blinks. They haven't even settled the escort agency business yet. He presses harder. The Jude clan stands to lose a lot walking away from this. Is he really sure? The elder just smiles and says he hopes everything from today gets sorted out properly in the end. The patriarch waves it off and tells him not to sweat it. He promises nothing ugly will leave these walls. The elder doesn't look fully convinced. The Namgung patriarch only smiles wider and moves to seal the agreement. The visitor laughs and says he saw all of this coming from the start. Pen already in hand, he tells the patriarch he's envious. Having a son that promising is not something most men can claim. He brings up Mewbake specifically. The kid used to be a walking disaster, but something clearly changed. The patriarch's companion figures the time spent studying under Kian must have knocked some sense into him. The man perks up and asks if that's the same scholar who was playing the instrument earlier. He thinks it over, remembers they called him Scholar Chin, and wonders aloud, is that the ghostly scholar people talk about? The patriarch just stares at him. No confirmation, no denial, just that look. Cut to night, full moon sitting over the mountains, everything dark and dead quiet. Two cloaked figures slip into a remote cabin, faces hidden behind masks, moving like they belong to the shadows. Hoods down, a white-haired woman and her servant, clearly on a mission and not wasting any time. Torch in hand, they push into a dark cave that looks like no one has set foot in it for a very long time. They move carefully through it, checking every corner, obviously hunting for something specific. And then they find it, a massive ice crystal with a woman sealed inside. She is completely still, locked in a deep frozen sleep, not so much as a twitch. Then the crystal starts melting, and the white-haired woman has absolutely no idea why. She stares at it, genuinely rattled. That crystal should not be melting right now. Outside, a lone cabin sits buried in snow, frozen solid in the middle of an icy mountain range. Back inside, the torchlit cave walls start to shake. Cracks tear open with a deafening crack. The two women stand there watching the ice crystal drain away, faster and faster with no sign of stopping. The white-haired woman presses her hand against it, completely at a loss for how any of this is possible. She thinks it through and lands on something unsettling. Only two people in the world carry energy strong enough to melt that crystal. Her and the palace master. The servant catches on fast. If the glacial holy body awakens, does that mean they can finally reclaim the ice palace? The woman doesn't even blink. Of course they can. They'll have exactly the power they need. She adds that the glacial holy body carries abilities that go far deeper than the third guardian has ever realized. Back in the garden, the patriarch stands back and watches a man from the Jade clan walk straight up to Kian. The visitor gets right to it. Is he really Scholar Chin? Kian confirms it, perfectly respectful. The man doesn't dance around it. A scholar of his caliber has no business wasting himself on a martial clan. Kian just smiles, thanks him for the kind words, and says he still has work to finish here. The man pushes harder. Come to our clan, handle this troublemaker doe who's been causing problems. We need someone like you. Then he drops the real hook, better pay. His clan, he says, knows exactly how to treat a proper scholar. That's when the patriarch materializes out of nowhere, and the Jade clan man clearly does not see that coming. The Namgung patriarch shuts it down, nice and calm. Difficult, he says. The scholar has plenty keeping him busy right here. The visitor tries one more angle, asking for at least a shot. The patriarch just turns and lets Kian speak for himself. Kian steps up without missing a beat. There's a saying, he starts, those who want to succeed will always find a way. Then totally deadpan, he delivers the second half. Those who don't will always find an excuse. The Jade clan man smiles, says it was an amusing answer, and announces he'll be taking his leave. Then he pivots, voice suddenly sharp, and barks at his men to get moving. His followers snap to attention. Yes, sir, meeting's done, they're departing. He lets out a frustrated sigh, turns on his heel, and leads his whole retinue out of the Namgung clan grounds. The two clans exchange formal farewells, and the Jade clan delegation files out in the wake of the duel. The patriarch mutters that anyone talking trash about Scholar Kian simply doesn't know what they're dealing with. Pure greed, nothing more. He turns to the tutor and actually thanks him. says it's because of him that his youngest son finally acts like a person. Kian just smiles and says the young master is like steel. You don't polish it with criticism, you hammer it with praise. The clan leader nods, taking that in. Says he'll remember that the next time he needs to deal with his son. Scene cuts to a busy market. Stalls everywhere, crowds moving through, the usual city noise. The courtesan and her attendant are walking through it, but they're not alone. Cloaked figures are tailing them from a distance. The attendant looks totally zoned out. Her mistress has to physically reach over and tap her to pull her back to earth. The courtesan asks if Kian's performance is still living rent-free in her head. The attendant smiles and starts to explain. She's heard plenty of music in the pleasure pavilion, she says, a lot of it. But that Song of the Scholars, never heard anything like it. It hit differently and she can't shake it. The courtesan admits she's in the same boat. Even she couldn't get that lingering feeling out of her system. Then the attendant goes still. Something shifts in her expression from dreamy to tense just like that. A group of cloaked female warriors cuts through the crowd near them, radiating the kind of aura that clears a path without a word. The attendant turns to her mistress and asks quietly if those were martial artists who just walked past. The courtesan confirms it, female warriors by the look of them, but she's puzzled why her attendant is asking. She probes a little, wondering aloud if her attendant has some bad history with martial artists. Meanwhile, the two cloaked figures from earlier are still watching. Those same two cloaked figures move down a deserted side street, and now someone else is watching them in turn. It's the elder of the North Sea Ice Palace, Yu Yuk Rip, and she's asking whether that place over there is the young master's hideout. Her attendant confirms it. Yes, that's the secret hideout. She adds that the third guardian, Shi Young, is currently playing the role of shopkeeper to keep the cover intact. The elder scoffs, the third guardian playing shopkeeper. She finds that beneath them. She asks whether the glacial holy body is there too, but her attendant has no answer. So she lays it out. Besides that place, the young master keeps hideouts in a pharmacy and a small sector. The elder is not impressed, too simple. She tells her attendant to dig deeper and leave nothing unchecked. Then she sets her jaw and makes it clear. The glacial holy body gets secured, no matter what it takes. Cut to daylight, birds drift over palace rooftops, everything calm and unhurried. Inside his quarters, Kian starts his morning the old-fashioned way. Ribbon in, hair tied, no rush. He pulls on his robe with that quiet, measured energy he always has, like a man who has already thought 3 moves ahead before breakfast. He finishes dressing, expression steady. Another day, another round of pretending to be ordinary. Then the servant bursts in and blurts it out. He was right, the master really was here. Mu-Bake cuts straight to the rumor. Is it true he is not a martial artist at all? Because the man does not add up. Scholar on paper, but that build and those skills do not come from reading books. Mu-Bake pulls up what he has heard, that Kian is a secret weapon purpose-built by the Murim Alliance. Kian just stares at them. He has no idea where any of this is coming from. He gives them the plainest answer possible. Good constitution, no secret, that is it. The servant and Mu-Bake exchange a look. That answer somehow made it worse. Kian watches the two of them bickering and quietly notes that the servant has clearly warmed up to Mu-Bake. Progress. The servant is laughing. Mu-Bake is doing that thing where he looks serious and baffled at the same time. Kian decides to change the subject and mentions he picked up an interesting rumor yesterday. Apparently the divine dragon of the Namgung clan just took down the hidden dragon of the Juj clan. Mu-Bake goes red. He stammers out whether his master heard about that too. Kian just smiles and says goodbye, mentions he has an appointment with the patriarch and needs to head out. Mu-Bake and the servant stand there in silence, watching him go. The young master's face does something complicated. Worried, maybe a little lost, watching his teacher walk away. Then he breaks into a jog and calls after Kian, telling him to wait, that he needs to say something. Kian stops and turns, calm as ever. Asks if Mu-Bake actually understood what he just told him. Mu-Bake says yes, and look, this is the first favor his mother has ever asked of him, so he figured he should pass it along. Then he adds, for the record, he personally does not recommend his sister. Terrible temper, just so Kian knows. Kian puts it together instantly and smiles. So the lady of the house is angling for a marriage between her sister and him. Mu-Bake confirms it, says if his father brings it up, Kian should just tell him he has no intention of going through with it. Kian goes quiet for a moment, that calm, unreadable look on his face. Then he loosens up and says, yeah, it would just be weird having Scholar Kian as his brother-in-law. Kian says nothing, still wearing that half-smile that gives absolutely nothing away. Mu-Bake says what he actually wants is simple. He just wants Kian to keep being his writing teacher, same as now. He looks off toward the horizon when he says it. No theatrics, he means it. Kian watches him with a quiet smile. Neither of them says anything for a beat, and for once it is not awkward. They walk through the clan courtyard together under a wide blue sky, Kian and Mu-Bake side by side. Mu-Bake keeps talking, says his sister is skilled in martial arts and genuinely beautiful, but also completely impulsive. He says it like a warning. Kian stops walking. He stands there looking up at the large palace ahead of him, something turning over in his thoughts. Then he feels it, heat creeping up through his body. He realizes he needs to check Mu-Bake's energy levels soon. He's not looking too calm about it either. The heat building in his body is a reminder. He needs to check how far Mu-Bake's energy has grown, and soon. The scene cuts. The patriarch is already in the room, waiting, and the greeting he offers is warm enough to make you nervous. Kian bows and keeps his face neutral. Whatever the clan leader is about to say, he's going to hear it standing still. The patriarch gets right to it. He called him here to give an answer about what they discussed before. He leans in and asks whether knowing the clan's secret techniques is really such a problem. Then he offers a way out. He's got a chest in his hands as he speaks. What if he gave Kian a formal status? Something that would make the whole issue disappear. Kian goes still. Is this man suggesting he become a member of the family? And then the marriage conversation comes back to him. He starts wondering if that's exactly where this is headed. The patriarch slams his hand on the table before he can think too long. From this point forward, Scholar Kian is no longer just a scholar. Kian doesn't say a word. The clan leader is staring him down with full intensity, and that declaration is hanging in the air. Then a man from the Namgung clan steps forward and hands him a token. The patriarch's personal guardian seal, a symbol of absolute, unambiguous trust. Kian stares at the token. He genuinely doesn't know how to respond. This is not a small thing. The patriarch watches him and asks directly, what does he think of the proposal? He's clearly expecting an answer. With a confident smile, he spells it out. With this token, neither the Council of Elders nor anyone else in the Senate can touch him. The token gleams, personal guardian of the patriarch. In this clan, that title carries serious weight. The room goes quiet. Kian is still processing everything, and the patriarch lets him sit in it. Finally, Kian speaks. His expression is pure shock. He says the proposal is too much. He can't accept something like this. The patriarch doesn't blink. He points out that Kian has already seen the clan's secret techniques. That alone would normally be a death sentence. But he smiles and says the clan needs him too much to let that happen. Someone this useful doesn't just disappear. Kian goes quiet again. He's caught the thread underneath the warm words. That was a compliment and a veiled threat at the same time, and he knows it. The Namgung clan leader explains that with this token, Kian can enjoy every privilege the clan has to offer. Kian thanks him but says he's not sure he deserves this kind of treatment and honor from the patriarch. The patriarch says he also needs a justification to bring before the Council of Elders. Then he drops the real card. He's bringing Kian's mother to the clan, and she'll have the clan's full support when she arrives. That lands. Kian bows before the patriarch with genuine respect, thanking him deeply. Eyes closed, he thanks the clan leader for his generosity. Then he steps out onto the terrace and takes in the view with something that looks almost like hope. His mother is coming. That means he needs to move fast and find the herbs to cure her. He smiles to himself, says it's been a while, and that he wants to see her soon. Then Mu-Bake shows up out of nowhere with a crisis, as he does. He's noticed people have started calling him the Divine Dragon, and the rumors are already spreading. He gestures at the crowd cheering his name and asks if this is just going to keep snowballing. With an awkward smile, he admits he really doesn't like pretending to be a good person. So now he's stuck. Does he lean into scoundrel mode or just accept that he's fated to be the Divine Dragon? He practically wails at his master, begging for guidance. Kian looks at him, completely blank, total zero interest in this conversation. Then Kian tells him to listen up. The scoundrel is him, and the Divine Dragon is also him. He explains that most people would already be struggling just to be one of the two. But he says with real energy, if you're Namgung Mu-Bake, the ultimate scoundrel, you can be both. Mu-Bake lights up. He gets it now. He's going to be a scoundrel-like Divine Dragon, and he's absolutely thrilled about it. Mu-Bake laughs at the concept, while Kian watches him with the expression of someone counting ceiling tiles. Then the gears turn, and Mu-Bake catches the contradiction. Wouldn't a proper scholar tell him to stop acting like a scoundrel in the first place? Kian just smiles and says there's nothing better than knowing when to pull out the scoundrel card. He lays it out plainly. Not everything in this world bends to heroics. Mu-Bake looks like he just got hit by a philosophy textbook. full admiration mode. He wonders out loud if this is the exact mindset that let Kian go toe-to-toe with the elders of the Muram Alliance. Mubake sprints after him and demands Kian check his pulse before he disappears. He catches up on the stairs, grabs him, and basically begs for help with whatever is going on inside his body. Kian already had plans. He's heading to see Lady Zhang, but Mubake insists something feels off. Kian pokes fun at him, saying Lady Zhang's vibe is a lot to handle. Still, he figures this works out fine. He was already curious how much the broken army star's energy had grown. He takes Mubake's wrist and starts reading his energy with full concentration. A bright green aura bleeds off Mubake's body while Kian quietly runs his analysis. The verdict: the 7 stars' energy has gotten seriously dense in there. He keeps his face steady, but internally he's thinking he just needs a little more before he can absorb it. Then he spells out what that actually means. Absorbing the 7 stars' energy isn't just about buying himself more time. That energy merges with the heavenly martial body and converts into brand new abilities. That's the real prize. Kian allows himself a small smile, already thinking about what skill Mubake's energy is going to become once it's his. Meanwhile, Mubake, completely oblivious to all of this, just asks where it hurts and whether he should try slowing his heartbeat. The scene cuts: full moon, dark mountains, one isolated cabin sitting out there in the quiet. Then the cabin door explodes open and a pack of cloaked figures pours in. The white-haired woman screams for her guards, demanding to know who did this to her men. One of her followers immediately asks whether the glacial holy body survived the attack. Furious, she leads the group straight to the cave to see for herself. What she finds stops her cold. The ice crystal is completely shattered, empty. She screams. The glacial holy body is gone. She cannot wrap her head around how this happened. She stares at the wreckage, genuinely struggling to process it. How do you even break something like that? She whips around to her follower and asks, has anyone ever heard of the glacial holy body awakening on its own? The third guardian answers that the palace records have nothing. Not a single mention of anything like this. That answer does not help. She orders her men to sweep the entire area. Now. Then she stops. Someone is out there watching from the dark. Her follower yanks out her sword and shouts into the shadows, demanding whoever it is show themselves. A torchlight cuts through from the top of the cave, and a mysterious figure steps into view. The figure looks down at the shattered crystal and says, so this is where the young master stashed the glacial holy body. The white-haired woman recognizes her instantly. Elder Yu. She demands to know what she is doing here. Then her voice shifts, sharp and cold. She accuses Elder Yu of coming to finish the job, same as she did to the palace master. Elder Yu does not flinch. She calls it an unavoidable choice and says the young master understands exactly why. She lays it out plainly. The Ice Palace has always been run jointly by the Master and the Elders together. But the Palace Master tried to wipe out the Elders faction, so they simply hit back. The white-haired woman cuts her off, furious. You brought in the blood cult. She wants to know if the palace is better for it. Both factions are squared off in the cave now, and nobody's blinking. The Elder cuts straight to it, hand over the glacial holy body. No negotiation, no preamble. The Palace Master pushes back, saying the glacial holy body belongs to the Ice Palace as a whole, not to any one person. The young mistress is not having it. She snaps at her, demanding to know if she plans to gift it to the blood cult too. That's the last word anyone bothers with. The Elder and her crew shift into combat stance, done talking. Then the Palace Master drops her actual plan. Use the blood cult as a stepping stone to break into the Jingyu. The Elder hits back with something colder than any technique. She doesn't have much time left to live, so has she even found anyone to extend it? That lands. The Palace Master goes quiet and asks, almost to herself, how long they're supposed to carry a fate this cruel. The white-haired woman and her attendant watch the Elder, faces locked and unreadable. The Elder lays out her vision: march to the Zhongyu, break their cursed fate, and turn the Ice Palace into a true pillar of the Muram Alliance. The young mistress flat-out refuses. She shouts that the palace only has meaning while it stays in the North Sea. She's not budging. The fury on her face makes that very clear. The Elder throws it back at her, saying she thinks even more rigidly than the previous palace master did. Then she says it plainly. For the sake of their disciples, they will enter the Muram even if it costs the young mistress her life. She screams at her to hand over the glacial holy body, right now. The Elder stops waiting for an answer. Blue energy erupts from her, massive and violent. That wave tears through the cave and fills every corner of it. The white-haired woman and her followers get swallowed by the blast. For a second, all you see is their silhouettes reflected in the shards of ice spinning through the air. Then the Elder pauses. She's confused. What are those ice crystal fragments doing there? The young mistress accuses her of melting the glacial holy body with that attack. She glares back with an expression that's equal parts rage and disbelief. The white-haired woman fires back. The glacial holy body awakened on its own and vanished. The elder is floored. That's absurd, she says. Impossible. She rushes to the shattered crystal, still refusing to accept that the glacial holy body could have awakened by itself. She examines the remains up close, trying to work out how something like that happens without outside interference. Then she stares at what's left and asks the question nobody wants to answer. Did it actually melt from the inside out? The young mistress cuts in to clarify they were still piecing together what happened when the elder showed up. The elder isn't having it. She rounds on her and demands to know why she brought the glacial holy body here in the first place. The white-haired woman fires back and calls her the real culprit, asking if she even thought about what happens if this thing ends up in the cult's hands. The elder snaps that she would never hand the glacial holy body to the cult and insists the whole thing is a misunderstanding. Then in the same breath she pivots. They need to find the glacial holy body. Now, fast. She orders her men to fan out and sweep the entire mountain fortress. They answer immediately and move out. The young mistress turns to her own people. Same order, mobilize everyone available. One look from her says everything else. They cannot let the elder find it first. Cut to a restaurant. A steaming bowl of noodles sits on the table, practically begging to be eaten. Kian is parked alone at that table, eating with the calm energy of a man who has absolutely nothing on his plate today. He gives his honest review. The broth is cleaner than before, the salt is dialed in better. Solid bowl. The owner materializes next to him, all smiles, thanking the scholar because customer traffic has doubled since he started coming in. The tutor waves off the praise with a smile, then glances at the table and asks where his noodles went. His bowl is completely empty. He stares at it, baffled, trying to figure out when that happened. He scans the room and catches something small ducking behind a column. Turns out it's a little girl with white hair, absolutely demolishing his bowl of noodles. Kian crosses his arms, clears his throat, and wonders out loud who this little thief thinks she is. Mew Bake squints around, also trying to figure out where the girl went after swiping his master's food. The girl is going full send on those noodles, not even slowing down. Seriously, how long has this kid been starving? Kian gets her attention. She jumps, cheeks stuffed like a hamster, caught completely red-handed. She's not even sorry about it, just smiles, totally content, food still packed in her mouth. Kian looks at her, sighs, and orders 2 more bowls. What else is he going to do? A fresh bowl arrives, hot and steaming, set right in front of him. He barely gets his chopsticks in before she's already sliding her empty bowl across the table, asking for more. And to prove it's really gone, she flips the bowl upside down and puts it on her own head. Kian just stares. There are no words for this. With sauce around her mouth and zero shame, she asks her benefactor his name. He tells her he's Kian, and she nods like the name suits him perfectly. Then, out of nowhere, she mentions the broth has astragalus and goji berries in it. Kian freezes. Those are the restaurant's secret ingredients. There's no way she should know that. He asks her name in return, but she just goes quiet. She can't remember anything. Kian just stares at her, genuinely lost for words. He lets out a soft smile, decides not to overthink it, and pats her on the head. Big mistake. Her face shifts from 0 to absolute rage in about half a second. She snaps that you do not touch a woman's head without asking first. Then she immediately adds that someone told her that once, and punctuates it with the weirdest pose imaginable. Kian files this away immediately. Yeah, this kid is not normal. She explains it herself, actually. No memories of who she is, but random knowledge, totally fine, apparently. She jabs a finger at her own head, like that somehow explains everything. Then the frustration boils over and she stamps her feet, yelling that she just doesn't know, okay. And then just like that, she lights up, thanks him for the food, and announces she's leaving. Kian blinks. That's it, she's just walking out. He manages to ask if she even has somewhere to go, and she looks at him like that's a weird question. With this odd little smile, she says some man already invited her to come along with him. She throws him another thanks and heads out the door, Kian watching her go with zero idea what just happened. The shop owner sidles up next to him, looking uneasy, and asks if letting her wander off alone is really a great idea. Apparently there are rumors going around, kidnappers, kids going missing, this region specifically. And sure enough, outside, some shady guy is already moving in on the girl. He grabs her wrist hard, clearly not planning to take no for an answer. she refuses to budge. Her response is to wrinkle her nose and complain that he reeks, yanking her arm back with obvious disgust. The guy drops the act and grins like a creep, telling her she'll regret fighting back. Kian shows up and pretty calmly asks why they don't just let the girl go. The kidnapper snaps back and tells him to butt out. This is none of his business. Kian just shrugs and says it's a sad state of affairs when people are snatching kids off the street in broad daylight. The man acts offended and claims he was doing a good deed, just helping a poor orphan he found on the street. Now there are two of them boxing the girl in, and Kian is quietly sizing up the whole situation. Then Kian drops the bombshell. Actually, that orphan is his little sister. The kidnapper isn't buying it for a second and calls him a bold-faced liar. But the girl is quick on the uptake and immediately calls Kian big brother, selling it perfectly. That's enough for the goons. They decide to teach this nosy scholar a lesson and move in on him. One of them charges forward and throws a punch straight at our guy. Kian sidesteps it with almost embarrassing ease, like he wasn't even trying. Then he takes the guy down in one move, and the man faceplants hard into the dirt. The leader sees this and stops messing around, ordering everyone to rush him at once. Right then, a new face shows up and demands to know what all the commotion is about. He clearly knows these thugs and immediately lays into them for being on the northern border at all. Then he spots Kian and does a double take, asking what he's doing here. Kian explains it plainly. These guys tried to grab his sister, things got physical. The newcomer looks genuinely thrown off hearing what the thugs pulled. He goes from surprised to furious in about 2 seconds, pointing out he already punished them once and now they're out here kidnapping people. The thug leader doesn't like that one bit and tells his men to attack anyway. He squares up and tells them they're about to get a first-hand demonstration of northern fury. Then he just wipes the floor with all of them, single-handedly, no real effort. After all that chaos, Kian and the girl end up safe in the courtyard. But Kian is staring at her and realizing she's officially become a real problem for him. Even in plain, simple clothes, she's impossible to ignore. He clocks it immediately. Kian does the math and lands on the obvious conclusion. Leaving her alone would be a disaster. He stops mid-stride and turns to look at the little girl. So Kian just comes out with it and asks if she wants to stick with him until her memories come back. She smiles and says yes, because at least he doesn't smell bad like that other guy. He genuinely laughs at that, 10 points for honesty. He tells her that from this moment on, the deal between them is locked in. Going forward, as far as anyone's concerned, he's her older cousin, and she'll be his younger cousin, going by the name Kian Yao. And the girl, she absolutely loves the name he picked for her. As they start walking, Kian Yao asks if she can hold his hand. Kian agrees, and there's a genuine smile on his face when he does it. The moment he takes her hand, something immediately feels very wrong. Her hand is ice cold, not just cold, wrong cold. He figures she's going to need medicine. He tells her she's like a little sister to him. Then he goes and ruins the sweet moment by patting her on the head again. She's ready to attack, but he apologizes just fast enough to dodge it. Meanwhile, someone's been watching the whole thing from the shadows. The woman from the Ice Palace has absolutely no idea what their deal is. She genuinely cannot figure out how the glacial sacred body has zero survival instinct. Her servant figures the girl just has a child's memories and followed him out of simple trust. The servant floats the idea of grabbing the girl when the timing's right. But the Ice Palace master shuts that down fast. The blood cult is already hunting for her too. She lays it out there in Hefei specifically because they're searching for the glacial sacred body. For now, the Namgung clan is the safest place that girl could possibly be. Meanwhile, Kian and the girl seem to be getting along just fine. The servant brings it up again. Shouldn't they just take the glacial sacred body now? The master admits she's thought about it a lot, but there's no safer place in Hefei right now. So the fact that she's with the Namgung clan actually works in their favor. She stares at the clan's imposing fortress from a distance. Then she reminds herself, Elder Yu and the cults are both out there hunting too. The whole city of Hefei has turned into one giant mess of competing factions. Her biggest worry is Elder Yu, who can actually sense the girl's energy directly. The servant puts it plainly, it's only a matter of time before he tracks her down. The master says they need a specific item to prevent that from happening. Her follower spots it immediately, the purified ice crystal sitting on the table. With the crystal's energy, they can fool Elder Yu and buy themselves some time. But the servant is worried. Her master can't absorb the sun's energy on her own. The master of the Ice Palace already knows. Using the crystal will cut her life short. The servant panics and demands to know what she means by that. She declares it her sworn duty to protect her master, no matter the cost. The Ice Palace master tells her to stop worrying about it. She's more concerned that the cults will raid the clan and take the girl tonight. That lands like a punch. The servant goes completely silent. She pulls herself together, apologizes, and promises to prepare a decoy body to throw them off. As she leaves, this, the master quietly thanks her for her loyalty. Cut to Kian's new residence inside the Namgung clan compound. Yan just about loses her mind over how big the place is and starts sprinting around exploring it. She drops straight onto the floor and rolls around, absolutely delighted with her new home. Kian's servants stand there watching, visibly confused about what they're witnessing. The servant Bingyi walks over and asks Kian who exactly this girl is. He introduces her as his cousin. She was in an accident and lost her memory, simple as that. He asks them to take good care of her, even if she acts a bit strange. Meanwhile, Yan is still lying on the floor declaring how amazing the place is. Bingyi admits the girl is beautiful and predicts she'll break a lot of hearts someday. Kian asks her to help Yan get cleaned up and find some proper clothes. The servants jump in to remind him that he doesn't owe a coin. Being part of the clan has its perks. Mu-Bake practically lights up because the elder personally ordered them to fulfill his every wish, no questions asked. Kian waves it off anyway and tells the girl to keep the money for herself, whatever she needs. Later, the two of them settle into the courtyard together, just sitting, unwinding after the chaos. The girl is practically glowing in her new clothes, soaking in the new life like she was born for it. With a wide smile, Yeonso says she really likes it here, says the place smells good. Kian takes that in, genuinely glad to see her this happy after everything she's been through. Then he asks for her hand, nothing weird, just wants to check her pulse. He pushes a thread of spiritual energy in and stops cold. Her hand is freezing. And then the energy goes completely haywire, flowing in directions it has no business going. Kian's first thought, maybe she has no meridians at all. But the energy doesn't stop, it just disappears into her body without a trace. He yanks his hand back, no, that's not it. Her meridians aren't absent, they're just so vast he can't feel the edges of them. If they're that massive, his energy can't even register them. It's like shouting into a canyon. The girl starts glowing, a deep, powerful aura rising off her, and she just smiles like nothing's happening. And that's when it clicks. She has the legendary heavenly immortal meridian, a constitution that shows up once every 1,000 years, if that. Something only achievable by those who have actually ascended to the level of an immortal. Kian stares, this thing shouldn't exist outside of ancient texts. The only explanation he can think of, someone built her, artificially. And that raises an ugly follow-up question. Could an evil organization be behind this? Because if the answer is yes, this girl is a walking catastrophe waiting to happen to the martial world. The girl picks up on the tension and asks her brother what's going on. Kian keeps his face neutral, tells her he's going to prepare medicine for her cold body. Then he asks her to stay put while he goes to speak with the elder. Don't wander off. Walking away, he's already doing the math. If she really has the heavenly immortal meridian, she's not just special. She's absurdly special. That constitution means she gets stronger just by breathing, not training, breathing. Internal energy accumulates on its own, naturally, passively. It's broken, it's completely broken. He puts that thought aside and heads to the Hall of Elders of the Namgung clan. Two men are waiting at the entrance and greet him with obvious respect. The elder welcomes him in, mentions he'd originally planned a one-on-one meeting, but a mutual acquaintance showed up, so he brought them both in together. The other man turns to greet Kian, and the condescension is immediate. You can feel it from across the room. Kian recognizes him, Ku Jinha, a rival who's been a thorn in his side before. His first question is simple. What is this guy doing here? Ku Jinha, practically glowing with himself, announces his new title, Vice Supervisor. Kian files that away, so the rumor was true. This guy really is the grandson of the Murim Alliance elder. And he's already acting like it, pushing to drop formalities and talk down to Kian. Kian cuts him off flat. They are not in the Murim Alliance right now. He finishes the point. Treating someone on temporary assignment with disdain is just disrespectful. Ku Jinha does not take that well. He snaps back, yelling something about the chain of command. Then the elder cuts in and calls him out for raising his voice at a guest of honor. Ku Jinha freezes. The scolding lands hard and he apologizes on the spot. Bows and openly admits he acted out of line right in front of the elder. The elder does not let him off easy though. He turns to Ku Jinha, still mid-bow, drops the formality and tells him to stop starting fights and just get to the actual point. So Ku Jinha finally delivers his intel. The blood and demonic cults have been extremely active lately. He adds with a sly look that they are clearly hunting for something specific. Then comes the bombshell. Ku Jinha says their destination is the city of Hefei, The elder looks shaken. Kiin goes stiff hearing that. He knows exactly what they are after. Kiin speaks up and asks about the cults, wanting to know why the Murim Alliance does not just deal with it directly. And what is the audit department doing mixed up in this kind of situation anyway? Hu Jinha turns to Kiin and addresses him as Scholar Hong. With that condescending smirk, he asks if our hero is scared of the cult's little pawns. Then keeps going, saying a simple scholar like him could not possibly understand what is going on. And he does not stop there, bragging that he is now working directly alongside the White Tiger Squad. Hu Jinha laughs and twists the knife. Either way, Kiin is not even a junior supervisor anymore. Kiin stays quiet. His rival reads that as a victory, figures he has finally put him in his place. In his head, he is fully convinced he just intimidated our hero into submission. The elder suddenly slams his hand on the table and calls out to Scholar Kiin. Everyone in the room freezes. He walks over warmly, says it's been too long, and that Kiin only stopped by to say hello. Hu Jinla's jaw drops. The elder greeted Kiin first, and like they were old drinking buddies at that. This is the elder of the Namgung clan, a man who honors warriors above all else, and he's treating this civil scholar like a personal friend. And Hu Jinla, with his supposedly superior rank, has to measure every single word he says to this man. The elder keeps going, says he'd genuinely love to see Kiin around here more often. Kiin smiles, admits he has other business keeping him occupied, but promises to come by more. Before leaving, he turns to Hu Jinla and addresses him by his title, Junior Supervisor. With a grin that could mean absolutely anything, our guy says his goodbyes. See you around. Hu Jinla is left standing there alone, absolutely steaming, humiliated in his own house. Walking out, Kiin grumbles that because of that little pest, he never once got a real conversation with the elder. Then his mind shifts. The blood and demon cults are hunting for something valuable. What if they've already figured out what it is? And then it clicks. He thinks of the girl and her celestial immortal meridian. That has to be it. Just as he suspected, he needs to get Yan Seal somewhere safe and out of sight before anyone with the wrong intentions takes notice. Then a fight breaks out nearby. A red-headed young master is already yelling at Yan Seal about proper formalities. He confronts her directly. Even if she's Kiin's cousin, that's no excuse to talk to him however she feels like. Kiin watches from the sidelines as the redhead keeps going. An obnoxious brat, he calls her. Can't fathom how someone like Kiin ended up with a cousin like this. Yan Seal bites his arm. Hard, the guy screams and demands to know if they're even actually related because she clearly has zero manners. Kiin just fans himself and watches the whole thing play out, not getting involved, not even a little bit. He calmly steps to the side and explains that the girl has lost her memory, asking the young master to cut her some slack. The redhead tells Yan Seal to apologize, pointing out that she treats her older brothers so well. The girl gets suspicious fast and asks point blank, is it actually true that this guy treats our hero well? So she bows and apologizes, saying she's young and just didn't realize how impressive he was. But it's a total fake out. She attacks him the second she's close enough, screaming that he was trying to trick her to hurt her brother. The guy is genuinely stunned. This little girl has him by the head like he weighs nothing. A servant walks in with tea and snacks and immediately walks into a nightmare. The young master is getting manhandled by a child. He nurses a headache and wonders if the past few days without sleep are catching up to him, while Yan Seal uses the chaos to bolt. Later, Kiin tracks down the young master, who looks completely wrecked, and asks how the whole thing with the girl went. The guy just says don't ask, because she wasn't even in the herb room when he got there. Worse, every single medical servant had disappeared too. The whole infirmary was empty, like someone cleared the place out on purpose. Kiin asks if there was really nobody left at the location at all. He turns it over in his head. The Hall of 100 Herbs shutting down right after Yan Seal shows up is way too convenient to be a coincidence. He still doesn't know exactly what the cults are after though. He's starting to worry it might be her, and he's not sure he can actually keep her safe. Because right now, barehanded, he can only realistically handle second-rate fighters. He wonders if hiding her is the only real option until he can actually build up his internal energy. The frustration hits him, and he lets out one long, tired sigh. The young master notices and asks what's on his mind, but Kiin waves it off. The redhead pushes back though, says he's right here and ready to listen if something's bothering him. Kiin sidesteps the whole thing and flips the question back. Asks if the young master's head has been hurting. The guy explains that ever since his last duel, his chest has felt tight, like something's stuck and won't move. And our boy's eyes light up immediately. Perfect timing, he says, almost too perfect. The young master has no idea what to make of that reaction. Kiin explains that it's a good thing he caught it now before it got worse. the star's energy has fully matured. And with this sly little grin on his face, he says he's going to take that energy right now. The redhead wants to know why he looks so happy about it. Kiin just tells him not to worry, he's done this kind of thing before. Cut to Kiin's residence. The young master sits down to meditate, Kiin positioned right behind him. Namgung Mubake settles in and focuses, while Kiin quietly gets to work. Then Kiin places a hand on his back, and a soft green energy starts to glow between them. That grin creeps back onto our hero's face as he starts pulling the energy right out of him. Green light flows straight into Kiin's hand, clean and steady. And Namgung Mubake, he feels incredible. Head clear, the fog completely gone. The guy practically rockets to his feet, buzzing with energy he can't hold in. He's out the door to go train, shouting something about seeking enlightenment. Kiin watches him go and actually finds it kind of endearing. Say what you want about Mubake, but when it comes to martial arts, the guy is genuinely sincere. Now alone, the spiritual energy he absorbed from Pang Solin before begins to twine together with the fresh star energy he just pulled from Namgung Mubake. Kiin thinks back to the secret teachings. This is exactly what they described. The spiritual energy of the 7 stars feeds the celestial body directly, unlocking abilities that wouldn't come any other way. The first skill was the Void Palm, and that one took real work to crack. The second one should come faster though. His body already knows how to move with the energy. Then out of nowhere, he feels a new life force stirring inside him. This is the new strength kicking in. He's not waiting around to try it out. He gets to his feet and squares up for a test. He spots a giant boulder sitting in the room and walks straight toward it. He puts his hand on it, feeling the sheer mass of the thing. His quick estimate, something this big would take 3 or 4 warriors just to budge. But he's curious what happens if he throws his new life force into it. He locks in, hand on stone, ready to find out what this new ability actually does. He takes a breath, focuses, and channels the new ability straight into the rock. Green energy starts flowing out of him, and he thinks, okay, maybe he can shift this thing at least a little. To his total surprise, the giant boulder peels right off the ground and just floats there. Kiin's jaw drops. He's got this thing floating without any effort at all. He genuinely did not see that coming. His first thought, is this enough power to pull weeds? Then he starts wondering what he could do with an actual sword in his hand. He keeps testing, lifting the rock over and over, completely unfazed by the weight. He finally gets why they say, mastering the 7 primordial energies makes a person nearly indistinguishable from a divine immortal. Because with just 2 under his belt, the jump in raw strength is already obvious. This is raw power that only the wielder of the heavenly martial body can actually pull off. Kiin goes quiet for a moment, turning that over in his head. He starts to wonder if that means he's the only one who can ever control all 7 stars. He heads straight to the courtyard to see what this new strength actually feels like in practice. Sword in hand, he cuts loose, sending energy slashes through the air at a speed that's honestly unsettling. Blue energy rolls off him in waves as he pushes the new power to see where the ceiling is. Turns out just cranking up the rotation speed of the primordial energy is enough to send his output completely off the charts. He lets out a satisfied smile, sword glowing in his grip like it's woken up for the first time. He thinks it through. A heavy sword is slow, a fast one hits like paper, but this thing right here is both. Then it clicks even further. The faster he spins the primordial energy, the more his power and speed feed into each other, compounding, no ceiling in sight. So naturally, he decides to floor it and push the ability to its absolute limit. His next thought, what happens if he stacks this on top of the limitless celestial sword technique? Blue energy swallows him whole as he executes the technique, clean and precise, no wasted motion. Then he sees it, the image of a blue dragon materializing right behind him. He freezes, it's faint, barely there, but he can see it perfectly, and that shocks him. Turns out the manual was not exaggerating at all. It's just that nobody before him had ever actually managed to combine both strength and speed at the same time. The dragon lets out a full roar, and Kiin just stands there staring at it, genuinely impressed. Then it's gone, the image disappears as fast as it came, leaving him standing there slightly confused. He spots Yahello out in the courtyard, and she's copying the blue dragon's movements. And as she moves, the dragon's energy transforms into cherry blossoms swirling around her. He stops and watches, completely drawn in by the sight. Natural energy starts pulling in and gathering around the girl. And she's doing all of this with a gardening tool, of all things. He starts wondering if this is her innate ability, the gift of the celestial immortal meridian. She runs the movements again with real grace and serious power behind each one. She swings the tool and sends pink energy slashes cutting right through the air. He's floored. She's actually using the limitless celestial sword technique. Then Yahello casually asks him if she should move the force to the left, and the energy slices right through a flower in the garden, clean and precise. He just stands there watching it all in total silence. The girl stops, confused by what happened, and starts wondering what she did wrong. So she shrugs it off and decides to try moving the force to the left again. He yells at her to stop right as she launches into the movements at full speed. He crouches down in front of her and studies her up close. He's thinking he was born with the heavenly martial body and he's got serious skills. But she skips the entire interpretation process and just learns by watching him. That's an insane level of talent. And he still walks up to her rattled, still in shock from what he just saw. And then it hits him: if the great schools and the 5 noble clans find out she exists, the demonic cults would snap her up immediately, pouring every dark art they have straight into her. And if she actually masters that, you're not talking about a dangerous person. You're talking about the most dangerous person who has ever lived. Something no one under the heavens even has the imagination to picture. Kian gently takes the stick from her hand, his expression completely serious. She is never to do this in front of other people again. Not once, not ever. But in exchange, he will personally buy her noodles every single day. She lights up like he just handed her a treasure chest and agrees on the spot, no hesitation. Then he invites her to come practice with the sticks in his room instead, where it's safe. Yanseal absolutely loses it with joy. Big brother is going to play with her. Meanwhile, Kian is having his own quiet moment. Her abilities just switched something on in him, the scholar in him refusing to let this drop. He finds himself wondering if she could actually bloom someday, the way plum blossoms do. He thinks back to studying the 5 forms of the plum blossom sword in the Murim archives. What she just did without even trying is something only the masters of the MANHUA sect can pull off. Kian is genuinely floored. Her raw, untrained talent is on a completely different level. But Yanseal just tilts her head and says the scent that came off the dance was really nice. She leans in a little closer and asks if there is anything else he wants to show her. Kian laughs. He genuinely has no idea where this girl came from. That question actually stops her cold. She goes quiet and thinks about it. She starts digging through her memory, searching for the very first thing she ever saw. She opened her eyes inside a cave, surrounded by something white and freezing cold. Kian goes wide-eyed and asks if she literally crawled out of ice. He can't wrap his head around it. A human being climbing out of ice, that's just not something that happens. Then it clicks: the sacred ice body from the Northern Sea Ice Palace. That's who she is. He watches her working through the movements with a wooden sword, eyes sharp on every step. And he keeps turning it over. Is what's sealed inside Yan actually the sacred ice body? If it is, only the top dogs of the Murim world know she exists. The 9 great schools, the 5 noble clans, that caliber of secret. So how did someone carrying that kind of status end up in his care, of all people? He just stands there, fan in hand, watching her from a distance. After all that training, Yan finally burns out and falls asleep right on Kian's lap. He thinks back, he only took her in out of pity, then found out she has ridiculous talent. He wonders if she just wore herself out drawing on her natural energy. And he reaches a hard conclusion. A kid with this level of absurd talent is never going to live a normal life. That thought settles over him, and it looks like he's working out a real decision about her future. He admits it to himself. He's not sure he can actually protect her on his own. After all, he only went after the 7 stars to buy himself more time, not for anyone else. The original plan was just to live quietly and be a simple scholar. That's it. Then Yan stirs in her sleep and latches onto his clothes, fingers curled tight. She even mumbles something about Big Brother being delicious. She's definitely just dreaming about food. Something hardens in him right then, and he decides he's not handing her over to anyone who comes asking, even if she's a kid who could set off a full-scale catastrophe somewhere down the line. To protect her, Kian is going to have to pull out the full power of his heavenly martial body. Cut to a peaceful garden, flowers blooming, sunlight quiet. And there's the white-haired girl Kian took in, practicing something on her own. She stops mid-motion and spins around, suspicious. A shadows crept into the background. The figure steps into view, the clan patriarch himself, fixing her with a dead serious stare. Does she cower? No, she hits him with a mischievous grin and looks ready to cause problems. The clan leader walks over and asks who she is. He's never seen her around before. And this fearless little gremlin looks him dead in the eye and calls him old man, then asks who he thinks he is. He's surprised, sure, but you can tell he's entertained. He reveals he owns the place. The girl panics immediately and starts yelling, convinced he's here to shake down her older brother for rent. The patriarch blinks confused and asks who this brother is. She shouts Kian's name without hesitating. That clears things up, but now he's puzzled for a different reason. He had no idea the scholar had a sister. The girl puffs up and introduces herself as Yanseal, then turns it around and asks for the old man's name. The clan leader straightens up and gives his full introduction, Namgung-hak. Her jaw drops, she stares at him and asks if he's literally the strongest old man in existence. He laughs at that and waves it off modestly, saying there are people out there stronger than him. Right on cue, Kian shows up with someone beside him, spots the patriarch and asks what he's doing here. The patriarch explains he was on his way to see the scholar, then got completely sidetracked talking to the girl. Kian steps in fast, apologizes, and introduces her as his cousin who lost her memory in an accident. The patriarch throws an arm around her and remarks that you really can't tell what someone's been through just by looking at them. He says the trauma was so bad she forgot her manners entirely. The girl, for her part, looks like she's about 5 seconds from snapping. The patriarch just laughs it off, saying he found the whole exchange refreshing. She reminds him of his own kids. Specifically, he says looking at her is like watching a young Mew bake, which is either a compliment or a warning, depending on your perspective. Kian sends her off to her room, mentioning there are dumplings waiting. The girl's entire mood shifts instantly. She bolts, shouting about dumplings, zero hesitation, full sprint, dignity completely abandoned. The clan leader loses it laughing, saying he's never met a girl quite that charming. Hard to argue. Inside the room, she absolutely destroys the food. Kian just watches with a quiet smile. After eating, she kneels respectfully before him, and he turns her attention toward the paintings on the wall. Outside, the patriarch stands watching the sunset. His expression is serious. Something's clearly on his mind. Meanwhile, Mew Bake is deep in training, completely locked in. Doesn't even register that his master just walked up behind him. The clan leader sees how focused the kid is and decides not to interrupt. He'll just watch. Mew Bake runs through his sword forms with real speed and clean, sharp concentration. Then he lets loose a wave of green energy off his blade in one clean strike. The energy tears forward with serious force and converges into a single focus point. The patriarch notices his son's movements are smoother now, more precise. Something has clicked. Mew Bake keeps going, spinning out into a full whirlwind of swirling energy around him. The energy shapes itself into spectral hands that move exactly where he directs them. The clan leader's eyes go wide. His son is blending the celestial sword with the 3 palms. He wasn't expecting that. Then it hits him. This is the 6th form, twin dragons that crush mountains. Mew Bake lands the move with a confident grin and declares he's ready. And honestly, he might actually be right. The young man's eyes light up with fresh focus and raw power after everything that brutal training put him through. The young master lets his attack fly and actually catches his father off guard, the patriarch wrapped in swirling green energy. The blast tears straight up and slams into the roof with a thunderous impact. That snaps him out of it fast. He calls out for his father, suddenly very aware of what he just unleashed. Then the patriarch appears right behind him and tells him he's impressed. That much growth in that little time. The clan leader gives him a cool look and asks whether he actually thought a hit like that was going to land. He then asks how his son got there so fast. The young master doesn't hesitate. It was the scholar. In a flashback, he walks through it. He'd worked out the twin dragons, the crush mountains technique. But his internal energy kept breaking down at the connection point. That's when the tutor stepped in with the fix. Kian told him to run the boundless celestial sword through his right hand, and the 3 palms through his left. The patriarch's jaw basically hits the floor. The clan leader understood immediately. This scholar had seen straight to the heart of the technique. He was genuinely impressed. He stands there with his hand on his chin, quietly turning over just how sharp that tutor actually is. The young master breaks the silence and asks his father directly, is there a problem with how far he's come? The patriarch says no, he's already sitting at intermediate level, which is not nothing. But there's a catch. From here on out, theory alone isn't going to cut it. The young master repeats that back with a look that says he's already thinking 3 steps ahead. The scene shifts. An official delivers a report. Demonic cult activity has been confirmed in the region. The clan's demon subjugation squad is already moving, and Namgung Mew Bake is being sent along with them. Meanwhile, Kian is quietly wondering if maybe the smarter move is to start teaching the girl some martial arts. Cut to a forest clearing. The scholar and the girl are out there together. Our hero and the little girl are hanging out in the clearing, and she's mid-snack. Very peaceful. He walks over and asks if she still remembers the dance he taught her. Dead serious now, he tells her to concentrate and think back to what he said about it. Still chewing, she tells him it's a secret dance so other people can't catch her doing it. He reaches over and pinches her cheeks, asking whether she's supposed to show it to people. She yells no. He smiles at that. Good answer. That's exactly why she can't go showing it off to anyone. Then out of nowhere, a pair of feet slam down into the clearing, kicking up dust. The scholar jumps up onto a tree branch above, and the girl watches from down below. Perched up there grinning, he dares her to go ahead and show him the dance. Mouth still full, she nods anyway, gets to her feet and squares up to show what she's got. She launches right into the boundless celestial sword, and she is fast. And we're talking one of the 10 great sword arts here. A girl with no memory, and she's nailed it. She circulates her inner chi, blowing past decades of normal training, sword raised and gleaming. Kian mirrors her, pulling on his own spiritual energy to trace the same sword art. A few days of practice, and both of them hit a level most masters never reach in a lifetime. Looking at that, he thinks, push hard enough, and he could genuinely be #1 in the world. The girl stops, shifts her feet, and settles into a combat stance with her little wooden sword. Then out of nowhere, something cracks him in the back of the head. Surprise attack from behind. A mysterious figure steps out, eyes glowing, and the sword in their hand is putting out serious power. The attacker doesn't wait around. They fire a beam of energy straight across the clearing, and it slams hard into a boulder on the other side. The little girl is just standing there in the middle of the clearing, completely lost, with no idea what just went down. Kian walks up and delivers the most satisfying "I told you so." He warned her to be more careful. That boulder is just gone now, chunks of it scattered across the clearing floor, case closed. He lays it out plainly, leave a trail and bad people will follow it straight to them. She does not take this well. Then Kian offers noodles and she's immediately on board. Oh, and can she get dumplings too? Obviously. And off they go, the girl clearly very passionate about dumplings. This is her whole personality, apparently. Cut to night, figures moving silently across the rooftops, not making a sound. Someone is running the 9 phantoms of the underworld steps technique, moving completely unnoticed. It's Kian. He's using a technique he pulled straight from the Muram Alliance library. He breaks it down. This technique manifests a ghostly, terrifying presence. Back in the day, it was used to spread fear. It runs on something close to spiritual energy, which is exactly why Kian figures it's a perfect match for him. He slips inside and checks. Lady Jin isn't at the clinic, just like Master Namgun said, so far so good. But nothing about this sits right with Kian. He keeps his guard fully up and stays sharp. He decides right then that he needs to figure out who she really is. Time to dig for clues. Then a noise, he spins around fast, and just like that, he is no longer alone. 2 men are hauling an unconscious girl, moving quick, trying to clear the area before anyone sees them. They're telling her to hang in there as Kian watches from the shadows, completely still and silent. A few moments later, both those men are flat on the ground, completely outdone. A warrior arrives, sees the aftermath, and goes visibly pale. The blood cult moved way faster than anyone expected. A white-haired woman spots the 3rd guardian, Yuan, standing next to an unconscious girl. She notes the girl passed out from sheer exhaustion, which tracks given what just happened. Before she can say more, her warrior steps forward and warns her. That wound on her leg has opened up again. And yeah, it's bad, a deep gash across her leg, and she admits the bleeding just won't stop. Without hesitating, she orders her subordinate to grab the girl and run. Get out now, as fast as they can move. But the warrior isn't having it. He gets desperate, voice cracking, flat out refusing to leave her behind. In her thoughts, though, she knows the truth. Her time is running short and the blood cult is already closing in. He's not giving up that easily. He shouts at her to stop talking like this, to save herself, to fight. He makes her a promise right there. He'll find the solar body himself. Just stop saying things like that. But she shakes her head. The real priority, she says, is finding the sacred ice body inside the Namgun clan. They slipped a crystal to E1 to keep the body safe, but if she gets caught, the whole deception unravels. From somewhere in the shadows, our hero has been listening. He pieces it together. They already knew about Yansel and planted a decoy to throw people off. And then he takes it one step further. Lady John, he figures, is actually from the North Sea Ice Palace. Right at that moment, a figure steps out of the darkness toward the 2 wounded fighters still on the ground. Both of them freeze. The warrior and the white-haired woman stare at the approaching figure, completely caught off guard. The man pulls off his mask. It's Kian, the scholar, standing right there. They're stunned silent. The woman and her subordinate scramble to their feet, shaken, and immediately ask the obvious question. How much did he hear? He gives them a single nod, all of it. He heard every word. She's genuinely impressed. She never sensed him at all and tells him the rumors were right. A blue aura ripples around him as she names him out loud. the secret weapon of the Murim Alliance. She's dead serious. This guy must be operating beyond first-class level. The warrior just freezes up, visibly gulps. That little revelation about the scholar's real power hit him somewhere deep. The white-haired woman nods and confirms she already knows he's been protecting the glacial holy body this whole time. So she gets to the point, take the other girl with him when he leaves. She says it plainly, it's the only real way to keep her safe. He says no, clean refusal, no real explanation offered. The woman is caught completely off guard by that. She pushes harder, warning him the enemies could show up at any second, and he genuinely needs to get out of here. The scholar cuts her off. They're already here, he says, and he'll handle everything himself. The warrior rips his sword out and shouts that pulling that off alone is flat out impossible. Right on cue, blood cult members start sliding out of the shadows. A lot of them. One locks eyes with Kian, red-eyed, leaking master-level pressure from across the room. The white-haired woman's expression goes completely flat. She's reading the situation, and she doesn't like what she's reading. Her subordinate squares up beside her, jaw tight, ready to move the second something breaks. Kian scans the group and clocks it immediately. Not just masters in there, top-level experts mixed throughout the ranks too. He smiles anyway and tells her he can't do what she's asking right now. Other plans, very relaxed about it. She tries once more urgent this time. Enemies are coming, take the girl and run. This is not the moment to be stubborn about it. He calmly tells her it's already too late to run, then says he'll resolve it himself, like this is a minor scheduling conflict. The warrior draws his sword again and flat out shouts that one man cannot do this alone. Not a chance. More blood cult members pour in, and the numbers just keep climbing. Kian stares straight into the red eyes of the first-class masters bearing down on him, and his face doesn't move an inch. The white-haired woman stops watching and drops into stance. If he's fighting, she's fighting. The loyal warrior drops into a stance, ready to put his body between the enemies and his mistress. Our hero steps up to face the blood cult members head-on, and these aren't small fry, we're talking high-level experts. He just walks toward them, calm, casual, and straight up asks if this is their hideout. The white-haired woman stares at him, absolutely furious. She cannot process what she's watching right now. Then a new player enters the scene, introduces himself as the young master of the palace, and suddenly this whole situation just leveled up. The woman cuts right to it. Why does the blood cult want the sacred ice body? The man smiles like he already won, and tells her she's asking a question she already knows the answer to. He lays it out plainly. The sacred ice body is a perfect vessel, and whoever controls it controls the world. The camera pulls back to a bleak, empty landscape as he says the rumors about it exist for a reason. Once she masters their martial arts, she becomes something unstoppable. A weapon with no equal. Our hero puts it together out loud. She would be the blood cult's perfect weapon. But the cult leader finally notices him and wants to know who this intruder is and what he thinks he's doing. The scholar shrugs and says he's nobody, just a scholar who came to get treatment for an illness. The man cannot believe what he just heard. A mere scholar talking to him like that. He orders his men to drag the scholar over, and they move in to attack. The warrior and the white-haired woman watch, faces dropping. The scholar is walking straight into this. The warrior pulls her up and tells her they need to deal with her wounds first. She pushes back hard. The scholar can't handle this alone, and she knows it. Then out of nowhere, a massive demonic hand crashes into both warriors and sends them reeling. Even the cult leader blinks. Someone just interrupted his attack, and he did not see that coming. Kian snatches one of them by the throat mid-charge and just stares him down. Cold, unbothered, the guy's feet are barely touching the ground. The enemy tries to pull free, and Kian responds with a smile, calmly twisting his wrist like he's opening a jar. The guy crumples, done, and everyone else just stands there frozen, trying to process what they just watched. That snaps the rest of the cult members out of it. They surge forward all at once, furious, ready to make him pay for that. One goes straight for him with a sword, and Kian just sidesteps it. No drama, no effort, just moves. He pulls golden energy into his palm and cocks back his hand. Something big is coming. He drives it straight into the guy's chest. Precise, clean, and absolutely brutal. The man screams, gets launched off his feet, and hits the ground, coughing up whatever was in him. Another one drops from above, going for a vertical slash. Kian already knows, he's already moving. His eyes light up gold, not metaphorically. Actual golden light, the power is starting to leak through. He slips past the blade at the last second and repositions, already lining up the next hit. Then he unloads a flaming kick right into the guy's center mass. Full power, no hesitation. The man screams on his way out, trailing fire the whole time. That one is going to leave a mark. Kian keeps moving through all of it, golden aura steady, expression barely changing. he's in the zone. The cult leader's jaw drops. He just clocked what he's looking at, the diamond palm of Shaolin, one of the great techniques. That recognition flips something in him. His expression goes cold and his eyes lock onto Kian with open, personal hatred. Another cultist rushes in without waiting, leading with sharp claws and zero regard for what just happened to the others. He flings those claws out like ranged weapons, a volley of blades aimed straight at Kian's face. Kian reaches for his fan, no panic, no rush. He flips it open and settles into his stance. He spins it once and the air around him turns into a vortex. Every single projectile gets swallowed up and deflected clean. Then he flips the fan forward and launches a blast of energy straight at the enemy. The cult leader freezes. He recognizes the technique and can't believe what he's looking at. Is that the fan of Kunlun? A bolt of blue energy rips through the air and slams into one of the cult members. The guy gets launched backward and that trail of blue energy just keeps going. It does not stop. Kian lowers the fan with a calm smile. Zero dramatic pose, just vibes. He's standing in the middle of a field of bodies now, casual, like he went for a walk. The cult leader, though, is smiling. He's pieced something together. He thinks back to the kid using the great strength diamond palm of Shaolin. And then he remembers the transparent fan of Kunlun showing up in the same fight. So he puts it together. This guy must be a secret successor hidden by the Muram Alliance. Kian turns around with genuine surprise on his face. They're talking about him. The enemy cuts him off before he can deny it. How does one person master both Shaolin and Kunlun arts? Answer that. And Kian privately has to admit the guy has a point. He did spend way too long in that secret library. Read everything, practiced everything. So yeah, the conclusion tracks, he gets it. He closes the fan, meets the cult leader's eyes, and basically says, "You're not wrong." The enemy's eyes go wide, and then Kian adds that there's actually one more thing. He draws a sword. The swordsmanship he's about to use, he says, belongs to the Namgung clan. The cult leader looks like he's about to short-circuit. That tips him over the edge. He loses it completely, screaming that this brat is beyond audacious. Scene cut. Now Kian is facing the woman from the Ice Palace, and he wants to know how they got found. With a smile, Kian says her name and asks who else could have leaked the information. Calm, pointed, already 3 steps ahead. The white-haired woman connects the dots. The Council of Elders is behind all of it. The Ice Palace is done. The cult leader grips the hilt tight. A red aura starts bleeding off the blade. Kian barely flinches as a blast of red energy screams past him. Too close for comfort. The enemy draws his sword fully and it's glowing a deep, vicious red. Kian actually looks startled for once. This is one of the 18 swords of the Red Dragon, a blade charged up by internal energy. Not a small thing. The sword art is from the Jansen Sect, known for a brutal, bloody reputation. Legend has it a student killed his own master just to steal this manuscript, then walked straight into the blood cult. Kian smiles and names it out loud, the Red Dragon of Jansen. He's enjoying this. The enemy wants to know why he isn't on his knees begging. He recognized the name. Kian's reply, he doesn't think the guy's actually all that impressive. Flat, unbothered. That lands. The cult leader bares his teeth, calls him an audacious wretch, and the rage is real. He launches at Kian, screaming that he's going to teach this kid some manners. Kian's eyes ignite with blue energy. The scholar mode is fully off. The same blue energy wraps around his sword hand, crawling up the blade. They crash into each other in the center of the hall, red and blue energy exploding on impact. The cult leader's eyes go wide. He didn't expect this much resistance. Then the rage takes over. He notices Kian looks off, reads it fast. This is probably his first time fighting with spiritual energy. They keep going, trading blows at blistering speed across the hall. Neither one gives an inch. The cult leader's mind is racing. Who is this kid that can match him blow for blow? He realizes none of the Namgung clan's masters ever came close to this level of swordsmanship. That lands hard. The enemy starts to wonder if this kid is actually stronger than his own elder. He snaps, screams that it's impossible, that a scholar can't surpass him. Pure denial at this point. The exchange doesn't slow down. These two are still going blow for blow at full throttle. Kian can feel it though. Every hit carries monstrous internal energy pressing through his guard. Not just pressure either. Each strike feels like a fire demon trying to burn him from the inside out. He runs the math fast. There's no clean path to victory here without going all in. And yet he smiles, calm, focused, already decided. He's going to risk everything and win. His sword starts glowing, blue and green light bleeding into each other. Something new is coming. He settles into position and begins drawing out the boundless celestial sword technique. A massive blue energy dragon erupts into the hall. He calls it the 8th form. The adversary freezes, cold sweat, wide eyes. Whatever he expected, it wasn't this. Kian's eyes are glowing now. he raises his sword toward the ceiling, locking in the final blow. He names it Dragon and Tiger Tsunami. A column of energy crashes down from above like the sky itself decided to weigh in. The blast swallows the entire area whole, Kiin standing right at the center of it all. Direct hit, the cult leader screams as the energy tears through him completely. Kiin's eyes are still burning blue. He's not done until he's sure. One last move, fast, clean, no hesitation. His opponent drops with nothing left to offer. He lands on the ground behind his fallen enemy, composed, like he just finished a study session. The white-haired woman and her subordinate just stare, completely thrown off by what they witnessed. She's quiet for a second, then it clicks. Her suspicions about him were right the whole time. The young woman puts it together. He's the Muram Alliance's hidden card, their secret weapon. And there he stands, calm as ever, while those two try to process what just happened. The warrior snaps out of it first and calls out to his young mistress, voice tight with worry. He zeroes in on the blood running down her leg, but she waves it off like it's nothing. Then Kiin walks toward them and she flinches a little, clearly not expecting him to close the distance. He stops in front of her and asks quietly if he can look at the wound. She goes a bit pink at that, but nods and lets him do it. He rests his hand on her leg and green energy starts flowing out, knitting the wound shut. Here's the thing, normal internal energy can't reach the blood vessels. It's just not refined enough. But the spiritual energy Kiin channels, it can literally reconnect ruptured veins. That's a different league entirely. He works in silence, then says he'd heard some rumors. Now he's certain. He names it Triple Yin Cold Spirit Meridians. Says it out loud like he's reading a diagnosis. That condition only shows up in direct descendants of the Ice Palace Master. It's that rare. And without someone with a solar meridian feeding them warmth, people with it just die young, simple as that. He can feel how cold she runs, no warmth at all. He knows exactly how bad this is. The cold energy inside her isn't dormant, it's spreading. She could collapse at any moment. He keeps his hand steady and pushes more spiritual energy into the wound without a word. Her subordinate watches the blood stop completely and can't hide the shock on his face. So Kiin tells her to stay off that leg for a while, unless she wants to undo everything he just did. The two of them thank him and he waves it off like it was nothing. But he has one question: why did they fake a sacred ice body in the first place? The young mistress goes quiet. Her face says this isn't a comfortable story. In a flashback, she explains it. The palace master gave her life to protect the real sacred body. She believed the girl would eventually recover her power and take her rightful place as the palace's new master. Kiin gets it. This whole thing isn't a scheme. It's a debt they're paying on someone else's behalf. He thinks it through. If she's the young mistress, the Muram Alliance would have backed them without hesitation. But the guard raises the obvious problem. Wouldn't the Muram Alliance also want to get its hands on the sacred body? And the Alliance isn't even the only threat. There are other dangerous factions already circling that little girl. Kiin's answer is blunt. No other organization has the reach to hold off both the blood cult and the demonic cult at once. So the guard suggests the obvious move. Ask the Namgung clan for protection since Kiin is already here. But Kiin shuts that down fast. The Namgung estate is stretched thin and he can't guarantee her safety there. The white-haired young woman nods. She sees his point. So instead, he offers to go to the commander of the White Tiger Division. With the White Tiger Division running escort, they could actually make it to the Alliance in one piece. Then the young woman asks something more personal. If someone came asking for the sacred ice body down the line, would he hand her over? Kiin's answer is immediate. To him, the sacred ice body isn't some object to be traded. She's a little girl who lost her memory and decided he's her big brother. That's who she is to him. And if she ever wants to leave on her own terms, he says, he'll have no reason to stand in her way. The young mistress is genuinely moved, thanks him, and then her body gives out on the spot. The guard's worry spikes fast. Kiin reads the situation instantly and says they need to find a carrier of the solar meridian. Right now. That stops the guard cold. He wants to know how Kiin even figured out what was wrong with her. Simple answer, he caught it when he checked her pulse earlier. Kiin drops this like it's nothing. He then pulls out a golden token and hands it over, telling the guard to head to a safe house and locate the commander. In the meantime, Kiin says he'll personally take the young mistress to wherever the solar meridian carrier is. He has it covered. The guard hesitates, not exactly comfortable leaving her alone with some guy he barely knows. Kiin's expression goes flat and serious. They are running out of time. Follow the plan. The white-haired girl makes the call herself, telling her protector to stand down and do what the young man says. The guard accepts it, but he's still gripping that token because he has one more question. Kiin just stares at him, no response, just waiting to hear it. The guard asks point blank whether he is the secret martial artist of the Muram Alliance. Kiin smiles and says he's just a scholar, Whatever the guard is talking about, he has no idea. The guard grins, says that basically confirms it, and tells him his cover is genuinely impressive. Kian is just standing there, actually confused. He genuinely does not follow any of this logic. He sees the open admiration on the man's face, lets out a sigh, and tells him to forget it. Decision made, Kian moves to the window. They are leaving now. He calls back that they need to move fast and find what they are after. He glances over his shoulder and sees the young woman and her guard already set to go. Kian sighs and mutters that this kind of thing is really not his style. And yet, cut to a full moon hanging over the city, the kind of night that looks too perfect to be safe. He's got the girl on his back and he's moving fast, hopping rooftops like the city is a stepping stone. She asks how much longer, he says almost there. Short answers, quick pace. Then he drops some actual information. Their destination should have multiple solar meridian carriers. Multiple in the same place. She does not take that news calmly. He doesn't slow down to explain. Just keeps moving, clearing rooftop after rooftop with easy, practice steps. When they land, she looks around and her expression shifts. It's a government office. Not exactly what she expected. An official comes out to meet them and Kian produces the golden token he was given earlier. That thing is doing some heavy lifting tonight. She pulls him aside and asks the obvious question, why are they here of all places? He opens his fan and breaks it down. Solar meridian carriers run hot with yang energy, a lot of it. Martial artists channel that energy through cultivation, keep it disciplined, useful. But regular people with no training, all that yang energy tends to push them toward less legal outlets. She puts it together fast. She asks if the people they are looking for are locked up inside. He smiles and confirms it. She immediately wants to know how they are supposed to get into a prison. Right on cue, the official steps forward with a bow and asks what brings such distinguished guests to a humble place like this. He offers his full cooperation before they even have to ask. Kian's token clearly carries weight. The official leads them in personally, all smiles. The girl follows, eyes taking in everything. Inside, a single lantern pushes back the dark just enough to make the corridor feel worse, not better. Kian and the white-haired girl walk the wooden hallway side by side, footsteps quiet against old wood. His steps echo as he closes in on the cells. The corridor is dead silent around him. He stops at one of the cells and does a double take at what he sees inside. That surprise flips fast. He gives a quiet nod to himself. These are exactly the people he came looking for. He turns to the guard and asks, pretty casually, if he could step inside for a closer look at the prisoners. The guard squints, clearly thrown off, but the young man just explains it simply. The local magistrate already cleared it. He also drops that they're Namgung clan warriors, just to seal the deal and put the guard at ease. That lands hard. The guard goes wide-eyed and starts apologizing for not recognizing them on sight. Then he's scrambling, telling them he'll have the gate open right now. Inside the cell, one of the prisoners, a guy with these sharp, bright red eyes, clocks their arrival. The white-haired girl peers in too, and something stops her cold. There's a woman in there among the prisoners. The guard swings the cell open with a cheerful smile and waves them through. Our scholar steps inside and starts moving through, actually looking the prisoners over up close. Then two of them lunge at him out of nowhere in a coordinated rush. Classic jailhouse ambush. His eyes light up green. He's not surprised. He was already waiting for it. He flicks out his fan and feeds his spiritual energy straight into it. One smooth motion, and he swings into both prisoners at the same time. They both yell out as the energy hits. That fan is very much not decorative. Two more come charging at him in a fury. He just watches them come, completely unbothered. His eyes flare with that intense green glow again, tracking their movement with a calm that reads almost lazy. Then he moves, one clean strike drops the first guy, and he's already turning to the next before the first one hits the ground. He grabs the second one right by the face. Spiritual energy starts pouring out of his right hand. This is not going well for that guy. He slams the guy face first into the wooden wall. The man crumples and doesn't get back up. Inside the cell, Kian has one prisoner pinned while the other one just sits on the floor, shaking. Kian looks completely unbothered, calm, focused, totally in control of this dark little room. He takes one deliberate step forward. His boot hits the floor and the echo does half the intimidation work for him. The surviving prisoner starts mouthing off, but you can hear his voice cracking. His body knows better than his brain right now. Kian doesn't even bother with words. 2 fingers, 1 pressure point on the neck, done. The guy drops instantly. Kian just watches him fall, already moving on mentally. He takes a second to think about the nerve of these people. Jumping him from behind like that was ever going to work. Then he turns to the white-haired girl and tells her everything's ready to go. She just looks back at him calm, waiting for the next move. They sit on the floor and the transfer begins. A bright yellow aura blooms out around the group. The girl sinks into deep meditation, pulling in the vital energy from the carriers one breath at a time. Her hands hold a precise position the whole time. She doesn't waver once. She exhales slowly, and you can see the tension leave her face as the power settles into her body. When she comes out of it, she stands and thanks Kiin directly. His effort got her through the crisis. He smiles and tells her the immediate danger is past, but she still needs to absorb the rest at the Alliance. Not done yet. He's confident there will be enough resources waiting at their destination. The smile sells it. She watches him quietly after that, sitting with what he said. Cut to the city under moonlight, still, wide, peaceful, the middle of the night at its most serene. Then Kiin explodes off the rooftop and they're moving fast. Kiin hauls her across the sky with the kind of easy agility that makes you forget he's supposed to be a bookworm. Mid-flight, she throws a question at him. He doesn't glance back once, eyes locked straight ahead. Turns out she'd been watching. She admits she saw him and the little girl together before, running through his usual routine. We get a quick flashback, the two of them playing like actual siblings, all smiles, completely at ease with each other. That moment looked too genuine to break. She couldn't bring herself to step in and shatter it. As far as the white-haired woman is concerned, the kid is better off living freely, away from all of this mess. But she's not done. If he ever uses the girl for something shady, she's coming back personally to collect. Kiin holds her gaze and agrees without hesitation. Parents don't own their children's lives, not their fate either. We cut to another memory, Kiin spelling it out plainly: every child walks their own path. Respecting that free will is what separates a real guardian from someone just playing the part. That hits her differently. This guy thinks in a way she's never actually heard before, and she knows it. As they close in on the palace, something in her settles. The little one is going to be fine with him. Kiin touches down in the courtyard, quiet and clean. A guard on duty clocks them from across the yard. They move through the outer corridor side by side, and every sentinel in the place is tracking their every step. Then the great hall doors swing open. Intense light spills straight out from inside. Inside, the commander and the other leaders are already seated and waiting. Nobody looks surprised to see them. Kiin steps forward and handles the introductions. He's with the Namgang clan. She's the young mistress of the Ice Palace. She introduces herself as Jang Subin and thanks everyone in the room for answering her call. The White Tiger Division commander speaks up. He's already been briefed and he tells them plainly they made the right call coming here. Right then, Kiin catches something. The commander is in the loop, sure, but not fully. He still doesn't know the whole truth about the sacred ice body. He mentions he's been hearing rumors about the demonic and blood cults moving around unchecked, and the commander confirms it without hesitation. Kiin spells it out clearly. Their goal is to capture her and use that to seize control of the Ice Palace, and it's not just low-level muscle moving either. Even the elders are involved. So the leader tells her directly, stop acting alone. This situation is no longer just her problem. Everyone at this table has a stake in it now. She agrees and thanks him, but he brushes the gratitude aside and says her story actually got him thinking about some things on his end. He lets out a sigh and admits that the Murim Alliance is caught up in its own problems, its own internal conflicts eating away at it from the inside. Specifically, there's a serious power struggle between the leader's faction and the Council of Elders, and the elders are gaining ground fast. The elders' side has gotten strong enough that they basically run the entire alliance now, just from behind the curtain where no one can officially point a finger. Kiin connects the dots. That weight in the commander's voice makes a lot more sense now. The alliance's political situation is genuinely bad. Then the leader shifts and asks if Kiin remembers a commander Jang Hojin. Kiin says yes without a second's hesitation. Flashback, Kiin received a report accusing this commander of corruption, but something about the whole thing felt wrong the moment he read it. The inconsistencies kept piling up, so he dug in, investigated properly, and eventually cleared the man's name entirely. Commander Zhang didn't forget that. Out of gratitude, he quietly helped Kiin go after one of the elders, which was no small thing to risk. Back in the present, the leader reveals that he and Zhang are on the same side, and that Zhang told him Kiin was someone worth trusting. Kiin just smiles and says he did what was right. Then he asks how Zhang is holding up these days. Doing well, apparently, and when Zhang heard Kiin was heading to Heath, he specifically asked the leader to pass along his regards. Kiin then steers the conversation somewhere more practical and asks the commander whether the inspection department has anything pending that needs looking at. He introduces himself as a member of the Namgang clan, then presents the young woman beside him as the young mistress of the Ice Palace. She introduces herself as Zhang. Then Binin steps in and thanks everyone present for answering the call for help and protection. The commander of the White Tiger Division says he was already briefed on the situation and that they were right to come to him. And right there, Kiin realizes the leader still doesn't have the full picture. The sacred ice body, what she actually is, none of that has come up yet. He mentions he's been hearing rumors about the demonic and blood cults running wild, and the commander doesn't deny it. Kiin lays it out plainly. Their goal is to seize the girl and use her to take over the palace, and the elders are already moving on it. So the leader tells her straight up, stop going solo. This is bigger than her now. Everyone has a stake in how this plays out. The young mistress agrees and thanks him, but the commander waves it off and says her story actually got him thinking. He lets out a slow sigh and admits that the Murim Alliance is dealing with its own mess right now, internal conflicts and all. Turns out there's a serious power struggle brewing between his faction and the Council of Elders, and the gap is only getting wider. The Elder faction has gotten so strong they're basically running the whole alliance from the shadows at this point. Kiin hears all this and immediately understands why the commander looked so worn down when he mentioned the alliance. The leader shifts gears and asks if Kiin remembers a commander Jang Ho Jin. Kiin says yes without hesitation. Flashback, Kiin received a corruption report targeting that commander, but something about it felt off the moment he read it. The inconsistencies were too glaring to ignore, so he dug deeper and eventually cleared the man's name entirely. As a thank you, Commander Zhang quietly returned the favor by helping Kiin dig up dirt on one of the corrupt elders. Back in the present, the leader reveals that he and Zhang are on the same side, and Zhang never forgot what Kiin did for him. Kiin just smiles and says he was only doing what was right, then asks how Zhang is holding up these days. Doing great, apparently, and when Zhang found out Kiin was heading to Yifei, he told the commander to pass along his regards. Kiin lets that sit for a second, then pivots and asks whether the inspection department has anything outstanding that needs looking into. The place had been crawling with tourists, and the regional commerce was booming at a ridiculous pace because of it. 1/3 of Soho's commercial rights were locked down by the Namgung clan, and the rest was carved up among others. The Blue Dragon Gate had its own cut in the mix. But Elder Gull brought in a batch of martial artists from the Murim Alliance to shore up his faction's muscle. And in return for that little favor, the corrupt Elder stuffed his own pockets with an absurd amount of money. With the Elder's backing, the Soho clan wasted no time muscling into Blue Dragon Gate territory. But once the Elder fell from power, the clan's leverage vanished and they had to give it all back. So now their play is to accuse the Blue Dragon Gate of allying with the demonic cult and get them driven out that way. No power, no problem. Can't win by force, so slap a treason label on them and let the system handle it. And Kiin clocks it. They're also planning to drag some delinquent into this and brand him a cultist too. He keeps turning the Elder's name over in his head, and all that old history comes rushing back. Their clash back during Kiin's inspection days was brutal. Both sides took serious damage, neither came out ahead. The Elder lost his post, Kiin got shipped off to rotational duty. Nobody really won. He sits there with his hand on the file and thinks. He'd figured that whole mess was behind him. He was wrong. The Elder's reach goes a lot further than he gave him credit for. Just sitting in that room, piecing it together, knowing his rival's rot is still spreading underneath everything. Full moon outside, he stares at it for a second, trying to cut through the noise and see things clearly. Then it clicks. Looking out at that moon, he understands. The Elder's influence has stretched all the way to Hefei. Right then, the hall door swings open, and a wash of light from the corridor floods into the room. The commander steps through with his subordinate, and they both pull up short when they see Kiin sitting there. The commander asks how Kiin's business went. Kiin bows his head and thanks him for his consideration. The commander brushes it off. He wasn't doing Kiin any favors, he says, just handling what needed handling. After that, both of them go quiet. Just two guys staring at each other, reading between the lines. Then the commander cuts to it. What does Kiin think now that he's seen what's in those files? Kiin doesn't hesitate. After going through everything, he's sure. The complaint against the Blue Dragon Gate is fabricated. The commander sighs, clearly not loving this conversation. The two of them keep talking out in the palace courtyard. Then he drops a bomb. The Blue Dragon Gate has direct ties to the Alliance leader himself. Kiin's expression says it all. Turns out the gate's master is the Alliance leader's half-brother. Yeah, that tracks. Suddenly the whole plot makes a lot more sense. And just like that, the pieces click into place for Kiin. This isn't some minor dispute. It's a full-on power struggle at the top. The clan's flag drifts down into the water. All those buried secrets sinking right along with it. Underneath everything, the real fight has been between the Alliance leader's faction and the corrupt elders. That's what this was always about. Kiin is frustrated. The cults are moving, real threats are closing in, and these people are still playing political games. The two of them stand in the grand palace courtyard as night settles in, stars scattered across the sky above them. Then a group shows up out of nowhere and Kiin stops. It's the inspection department. He wasn't expecting that. An inspection team doesn't just roll up without reason. Someone important had to have arrived with them. The commander confirms it, the master of the Blue Dragon Gate himself, the great Lord Yeong. And his son too, Yamak Song, who just happens to be the carrier of the third energy of the 7 stars Kiin has been hunting. Something shifts in Kiin's face. He picks up on something the others don't, and his expression goes cautious. Someone calls out Inspector, and a man comes striding toward them across the palace courtyard. He walks right up to them, smile already on his face, and introduces himself. Inspector Yuhan. Kiin cuts in and asks to just be called Scholar Chin. Then he asks about Vice Inspector Gu. Yuhan smiles and tells him the Vice Inspector has already headed over to the Namgung clan to deal with something. Cut to the Namgung clan's Blue Gate. A little white-haired girl is standing there, taking it all in. Then an older man walks out, and the girl looks genuinely surprised to see him coming toward her. He asks if she knows where Kiin went. The girl doesn't know, or at least that's what she says. He asks her name next, but the girl flips it right back on him. Why should she answer first? She explains that proper etiquette means introducing yourself before asking someone else's name. Basic stuff, apparently. And she delivers this little lecture with a completely straight face and a confident pose, like she's the adult here. The man's eye starts to twitch as she tells him that speaking rudely to younger people is just plain wrong. She then muses aloud that only ill-mannered brats would ever act like that. Then she goes for the kill shot, asking him point-blank whether he had a bad upbringing at home. That does it. He explodes, calls her a sassy little brat, and she fires back immediately. You're ugly. He asks, dripping with sarcasm, whether she learned that comeback in her etiquette classes. She holds his gaze and says no. She explains very seriously that she learned if someone curses you, the correct response is to curse them right back. He stares at her. Did her etiquette teacher actually say that? The girl nods, completely proud of herself. And now the man's expression shifts. He wants a name, specifically the name of whoever taught her this curriculum. The girl narrows her eyes and asks why he wants to know her master's name. Smart kid. He jabs a finger at her and calls her disrespectful, which, fair, but also he started this. Fists clenched, he tells her he is going to personally teach her how scary the world can be. He lunges, she dodges, completely unbothered, and curses him out again for throwing hands at a kid. He yells that he won't let the brat get away, but she keeps slipping his attacks like it's nothing. Then a voice cuts through the whole scene and he freezes, suddenly very aware he has an audience. A woman steps forward and asks, with a very calm and very dangerous tone, who exactly is bothering a child of the Namgung clan. The man goes pale. The Namgung clan. He looks at the girl again, doing the math, not liking the answer. And from behind her protector, the girl peeks out and sticks her tongue at him. Absolutely no remorse. The guy is still confused though. He turns and asks who exactly this woman is because she stepped in like she owns the place. That's when the clan head himself walks in and answers that question real fast. She's his wife. Any problems with that? The man's face just stops working. He's standing in front of the Naman clan leader and apparently had no idea. It all clicks at once and he starts stammering, piecing together that the woman he just had a standoff with is the clan's matriarch. The matriarch is not smiling. She's staring him down with a look that could freeze water, making it very clear she did not appreciate any of this. He hits the floor, full face down, desperate groveling, 1,000 apologies spilling out for failing to recognize who she was. The clan head is already radiating a blue aura, which is never a good sign. He says calmly that he has always respected the Murim alliance. Then the calm disappears. He roars that he will not forgive anyone who walks into his home and tries to hurt a child. Full stop. The man is shaking but still tries to wriggle out of it, insisting the little girl was being insolent to him first. The leader is not interested. He cuts the excuses off cold and orders the guards to remove him. Right now. 2 guards materialize instantly and confirm the order with zero hesitation. One of them grabs the man's arm and starts hauling him out. No ceremony, no gentleness. He's screaming the whole way, begging them to let go, calling out to the clan head like that's going to change anything. As a last resort, he announces he is the vice inspector of the Murim alliance, dropping the title like it might actually save him. The clan head ignores all of it and turns to the little girl instead, asking if she's all right. She grins, completely satisfied with herself, and says the man was just loud and obnoxious. Nothing more than that. The vice inspector, still being dragged away, hears this and goes completely silent. He cannot believe a child just described him like that. It doesn't matter, the guards launch him out through the clan gates without a shred of mercy. Both guards stand at the entrance and make it plain, do not come back here. He's lying in the dirt outside, still trying to process what just happened, as the guards deliver one last warning behind him. The crowd on the street starts gathering, doing what crowds do best, staring and whispering about the guy flat on the ground. His hand pressing into the dirt, he just lies there, and you can practically see the rage building inside him with every second. He's grinding his teeth so hard it's a wonder they don't crack. Every face, every word from that encounter is replaying in his head. His eyes go red, full villain glow. He swears right then and there that the Namgang clan is going to pay for all of it. So the rival storms off, muttering that he absolutely is not letting this go. Classic "I'll be back" energy. But his own follower suddenly stops walking, and the man spins around, genuinely confused about what just happened. He snaps at the guy, demanding to know what he's staring at and whether he's looking for a bad ending. The follower doesn't even flinch, just turns and walks away, and the noble left standing there calls him a lunatic. That hits different. Kujina is genuinely stunned. He just got brushed off by someone he expected to grovel. The look on his face is something else. Rage and disbelief both at once, because nobody just ignores him like that. Then he catches it, people nearby, heads together, eyes sliding toward him. Right there in front of the clan gates, he's been humiliated by pretty much everyone today, and he knows it. The rival clears his throat quietly, forcing himself to look composed even though the whole scene just happened. He turns, keeps walking, and doesn't look back. The onlookers keep watching until he's gone. But he glances back once and something nags at him. Something about today felt off in a way he can't quite place. The girl at Kian's place comes to mind. He starts wondering if she's some hidden sister or daughter nobody knew about. He shakes his head and drops it. No way, that doesn't add up. He dug into the scholar specifically to bury him. He would have turned up any family if one existed. And yet, even the patriarch and his wife were shielding her. That's not nothing. His eyes sharpen, because if the clan leadership is protecting her, that girl might be the one angle nobody's accounted for. He sees it clearly now. The girl is his ticket to taking down both the scholar and the Namgang clan. A slow, ugly grin spreads across his face as the revenge plot clicks into place. Back in the room, the young master tells the noble his expression looks genuinely terrifying right now. The man plays it cool, but the boy isn't buying it and asks why he's dressed like he just robbed someone. The other young man deadpans that he basically did steal the noble's spot, which goes over exactly as well as you'd expect. Then the newcomer spots the young mistress of the ice palace across the room, and his whole demeanor shifts. He fixes her with a serious look and says he heard she'd been looking for him. The noble bristles at how casual the guy sounds and cuts in, saying he needs help with something. The young man asks what exactly he could help with, and the noble immediately says never mind. He'll handle it himself. Then he points straight at the son of the dragon, Gate's master, and drops the accusation. That man is with the cult. An elder chimes in that Kian has a sharp eye for delinquents and solid medical knowledge to back it up. Kian reads the room instantly. They want him to identify demonic energy, and this is a trap. His rival smiles and says surely someone of Kian's caliber can make that distinction easily. Kian runs the logic, deny the demonic energy, and they produce fabricated proof to frame him anyway. Confirm it, and the rival's plan lands perfectly with Kian himself as the witness who sealed the verdict. Either way, Kian's word becomes the irrefutable evidence his enemies need. So yeah, no matter which way he answers, he loses. The rival keeps poking, taunting that someone as clever as Kian wouldn't just walk into an obvious trap like this. Then he drops the smile and promises, quietly, that he will pull Kian down into the darkness with him. And the scene pulls back to show us the full picture. The noble engineered this entire setup specifically after that humiliation. He dropped any pretense of guilt and went straight to interrogating the accused before the meeting even started. The whole interrogation runs under the pretext of an alleged alliance with the demonic cult. Behind the scenes, he slipped an explosive demon pill straight into the young man's tea. This pill ramps up demonic energy. It's so dangerous that even the cult itself considers it forbidden. His plan, make the energy flare up, tie the Dragon Gate and Kian to the cult, and bury them both. Right now, though, the accused's father is denying everything. Why would his son ever join the demonic cult? The noble shrugs. Based on the kid's reputation, he says, it seems pretty clear he picked up some evil arts somewhere. The father pushes back. Sure, his son is no saint, but this accusation is completely absurd. The noble cuts him off. There are already rumors about the energy, insisting otherwise won't change that. Desperate, the father yells at them to just check his son right now. Is the energy there or not? The noble smiles at that, triumphant. That's exactly why he brought an expert, he says. Then he turns to Kian and points out that he has dealt with demonic energy before, right in front of everyone. Kian sees the trap immediately, check the pulse and confirm the energy, and he's done. He's already thinking about walking away. But then the young man screams, out of nowhere. Everyone in the room freezes. His father bolts to his side, completely panicked, demanding to know what is happening to his boy. Kian watches in shock, and then it clicks. His rival is behind this. He pieces it together fast. The young man is suffering a chi deviation triggered by the pill. Dark, suffocating demonic energy erupts from the young man's body. The whole room flinches back. Nobody needs an expert. Everyone in that room can feel the evil energy coming off him. The noble smiles, satisfied, and confirms it. That is the cult's energy, plain as day. The father is completely frozen. He can't process what he's seeing. That's his son standing there radiating cult energy. Kian, cool as ever, mutters that parents are always the last ones to actually know their own kids. The father scrambles up from the floor begging that something must be wrong, but the noble isn't interested in hearing it. Instead, he turns to Kian and suggests he check the pulse himself. That way there's no room for doubt. And Kian immediately clocks the trap. Refuse to check, and his rival has all the ammunition he needs to bury him. But confirm the cult energy, and the Blue Dragon Gate has to own every consequence that follows. He looks at the father's face, pure desperation, and decides to check the pulse anyway. The Gate Master exhales, visibly relieved, and keeps his eyes locked on Kian's every move. Meanwhile, the rival is practically glowing. The trap landed perfectly, and he knows it. Then Kian pivots and looks straight at the young mistress of the palace. He needs her help with this. He holds up a needle charged with ice energy and tells her to press the acupoints on the young man's head. He's clear about one thing: do not touch him directly. She nods and asks how deep. He spells it out: 3 inches for the Bowie point, 1.5 for the rest. She steadies herself, pulls her ice energy inward, and gets ready. This is a delicate procedure. Her eyes shift to that sharp, glowing blue as she locks in her full concentration. The cold energy runs down through the needles, and she has absolute control over every thread of it. Then with fast, precise hands, she drives the needles into the fallen young man's head. He screams. The demonic energy inside him is not happy about the intrusion and fights back hard. He writhes, groaning, as the icy force and the evil energy tear at each other inside his body. Then slowly he goes still. The father leans in, voice cracking, asking if his son is going to be all right. Kian tells the Gate Master straight up, if he wants his son to live, he needs to trust him. The father doesn't hesitate. He agrees, practically begging Kian to save the kid. Kian settles beside the young man with that calm, unbothered look he always has and gets back to work. His rival watches from a distance, smirking to himself, convinced Kian just walked into a death trap. Kian reaches toward the young man's head, fingers hovering just above the ice needles. He explains it out loud: demonic energy is unstable and cold slows it down. Since the needles are packed with cold energy, even the evil force can't get close. The rival's smirk doesn't fade. He knows something Kian doesn't. There's an explosive demon pill in there. Then Kian closes his eyes, and green energy starts seeping out of his palms. It spreads through the young man's body like a current, wrapping around him in a faint greenish glow. Kian's eyes light up. He's scanning now, searching for the star energy buried somewhere inside. He's managed to freeze the demonic energy in place. Now he just has to find the 7 stars. The problem is the needles were supposed to suppress the evil energy. It's still raging anyway. At this rate, finding the star energy is impossible. He needs a different approach. So he shifts tactics, channel his own spiritual energy deeper, push the cold further into the body. His green energy dives straight into the demonic aura, cutting through it to find its target. And then, buried in all that chaos, he finds it. The young man carries the energy of the greedy wolf star. Kian lets out a quiet breath of relief. It's not one he's absorbed yet, and he can sense it clearly, sitting right there in the danchin. That's what's been wrong this whole time. His internal energy never grew because the star energy was consuming it, feeding the madness instead. Basically, the guy turned into a walking disaster with zero impulse control. Kian doesn't even hesitate. He decides right then that energy is his. The moment he starts absorbing it, white light swallows him whole. Everyone else in the room just freezes, watching. Nobody has a clue what they're looking at. His rival loses it immediately, demanding to know what he thinks he's doing just touching the needles like that. The squad leader tells him to shut it. He's reading the pulse, calm down. The noble cannot believe what he just heard. His face does the thing. Then the leader locks eyes with him, and it's not a friendly look. The kind of stare that makes your legs decide to cooperate. The rival folds instantly, backpedaling with some nonsense about just being concerned. tiger aura hits different. The leader explains it calmly. The best physicians read the pulse through thread vibrations. Old school technique. The noble is furious. He did not want this guy pulling out his trump card this early. Then he shifts gears and points out that the demonic energy radiating off that kid is so thick, everyone in the room can feel it. The leader agrees, and if they can feel it, the cults can feel it too. That's the real problem. The noble jumps on that opening. They need to move the young mistress. Now, keeping her and the boy in the same location is a liability they can't afford. He gives the order directly, squad leader, get her somewhere safe immediately. And just to make it stick, he invokes the Council of Elders, official authority on the table. The rival piles on with a threat of his own. Refuse and the fallout won't be pretty. He even goes for the jugular, suggesting the leader's position might not survive a refusal. The squad leader stands there, caught between two bad options, the situation pressing in from every direction. But right at that moment, Kian cuts in and tells him to follow the order. Do what the inspector said. He tells him, get the young mistress out of there. But first, he says, there's something important he needs to take care of. He blasts the rival's guards with a sharp wave of green energy before anyone can react. The two lock eyes. The noble smiles like he's already won. Then Kian moves, hitting the rival's guards with a precise burst of energy. Eyes sharp, he tells the noble he needs to explain the scent of a certain pill on his body. The squad leader freezes the moment he hears the name. Explosive demon pill, that's not good. The rival goes full denial mode, shouting that the scholar has clearly lost his mind. Kian lays it out calmly. He examined the young man's energy and found pill poison in his system. He turns to the father and asks, almost casually, if he finds it strange his own son was poisoned. Then he faces the noble directly. Same scent, why? He tells him to prove he's telling the truth. Show what's inside his robe. The rival's eyes blow wide. He knows he's caught. He tries to play it off with a smirk, says the whole idea is absurd. Kian doesn't blink. He tells his rival to listen very carefully. An entire clan, he says, is on the verge of being wiped out over this accusation. And the man making that accusation can't produce a single piece of proof. He turns to the leader and asks him to verify it himself. The leader thinks it over for a second and agrees. Seems reasonable enough. The rival completely loses it, screaming at him to stop. That's an order. His eyes say everything. That's the face of a man who just watched his own trap snap shut on him. The leader reaches into the noble's robe and pulls out a pouch. The noble immediately claims it's his medicine. And out rolls a single red pill. Everyone in the room gets a good look at it. The scholar asks, so you take this yourself? The rival says yes, big mistake. And then Kian just grabs the man's face. No warning, full force. He shoves the pill right up to his mouth and tells him to take it. Right now. No hesitation on his face, no mercy either. This is happening. The noble starts screaming and begging him not to make him swallow it. He admits what it is. He admits that if he eats it, he's done. Kian's eyes light up and he leans in. So you're the one who poisoned him then. The noble is shrieking now, calling him insane, telling him to stop. He tries pulling rank, reminding him exactly who he's dealing with. Kian just throws it back at him. He already stood up to an elder. Does he really think this stops him? The noble's eyes go wide. That bluff just died. He stares at the pill. There is nowhere left to go. And he breaks completely. He confesses. He was the one who poisoned the young man. He admits he slipped the pill into the young man's drink himself. The whole frame up straight from his own mouth. The squad leader looks like the floor just dropped out from under him. The noble's own followers stand there in silence. Everything they thought they knew about their master just collapsed. The father ignites with a golden aura and lunges at the rival, screaming, demanding to know why he did it. The squad leader throws his arms around him and holds on tight, physically stopping him from doing something he can't take back. He tells him to calm down and keep it together. This isn't the place to start an interrogation. With a hard, steady look, he promises they'll bring the man back to the Alliance and get the truth out properly. The father fixes him with eyes that are practically on fire, but forces himself to hold it together. He finally backs down. The leader keeps hold of him as the golden aura slowly fades out. Later that night, our hero watches a group quietly slipping away from the area. The young man's father approaches the scholar and thanks him directly. Says he saved the entire clan from being wiped out. The scholar brushes it off, but admits he's still worried about the son. Even with the energy suppressed, he explains, it can surge back without warning. The only real fix is for the young man to learn a demonic cultivation method so he can absorb the energy himself. The father looks desperate. Where is he even supposed to find something like that? He sits down beside his unconscious son and holds him close. He makes the kid a quiet promise, don't give up, he'll find a way. Our hero watches the whole thing, now very curious about what the father has in mind. The squad leader tells the young mistress it's time to move to the safe house. She turns to the scholar and asks if they can see his sister one more time before leaving. He hesitates, says it probably isn't a great idea. She pushes back, says she won't say anything, just wants to see her face one last time. She also wants to leave something behind for the scholar's younger sister. She hands him a package and asks him to handle her affairs in Heath. He stands there a moment, holding it, saying nothing. He accepts tomorrow the safe house, that's the plan. The young mistress breaks into a full smile and thanks him genuinely from the heart. He smiles back, quiet and warm, and looks at her one last time. The scene cuts to open sky, the sun low on the horizon, calm before whatever comes next. Inside, the boy's father wastes no time thanking Kian for agreeing to help. He admits straight out he brought Kian here because he believed Kian's eye for things could save his son. Kian cuts to the point. Demonic energy doesn't just fade, it needs a cultivation method to control it. That's when the father drops something. A long time ago, he found a demonic martial arts manual. He remembers reading it and thinking it looked like standard orthodox techniques. Nothing special, nothing that made sense. But now, with his son like this, that strange little book came back to him. So he asks carefully whether by any chance that manual might actually be useful here. Kian's interest sharpens. He tells the man, "Show me the book first." The father nods and moves immediately to retrieve it. He crosses the room with purpose, moving fast for a man carrying this much worry. Kian watches him go and thinks to himself that even a first-rate master would struggle to make sense of something like this. The father goes straight to the bookshelf and presses a hidden panel. A compartment clicks open. Inside, tucked away with real care, sits an ancient manual that looks like it hasn't seen daylight in years. He turns and places it in Kian's hands, not saying anything. The hope on his face says it all. Kian cracks the manual open and starts working through it, page by page. His eyes go wide. He knows this book. It's the manual of the Phantom Immortal. He'd spent serious time digging through the Alliance's archives looking for exactly this, and came up empty every time. All he'd managed to find back then were the divine arts of the 9 phantasmal shadows. Now here he is, reading the real thing, the actual writings of the ancient manual he'd only ever heard about. He can barely believe it, the thing he couldn't find anywhere, and it was just sitting here. Not a fragment, not a copy. The complete martial arts of the Phantom Immortal, unabridged. Namgung Mu Baek's father is watching Kian's face and getting nervous. He asks what this means, whether it's a problem. Kian tucks the book under his arm and tells him straight, as a martial arts manual, it's not worth much. But for controlling the young man's energy, it'll do the job. The structure lines up with cultivation methods Kian has already worked through himself. He also tells the father to say that he was the one who passed on the cultivation method, not to mention where it came from. The father exhales, then asks if that means they're not going to owe anyone for this. Kian just says saving a life comes first. That's the whole point. He tells the father not to worry about blame. None of this is going to fall on him. Then he places his hand on the young man's chest and starts channeling his green energy into him. Mu Baek stirs and sits up as Kian works, the power flowing steady and controlled. The father stands back and watches, and quietly thinks that the rumors about this scholar weren't exaggerated at all. The green energy spreads across the young man's whole body, pushing the demonic energy out. Kian pulls his hand back with a calm, satisfied look. Treatment done. The kid's eyes snap open and the first word out of his mouth is "Father." The man comes running. He pulls his son into a tight hug, voice cracking, saying the heavens haven't abandoned their clan after all. Both of them are in tears now, and they turn to Kian with the kind of gratitude that's hard to look at. Kian hands over the written verses and tells them the worst is over. No more flare-ups. The father thanks him again and swears he'll keep a closer eye on the boy from here on out. Then Kian says he's going to burn the manual. No copies, no traces. He's already got every line memorized anyway. Why leave something that dangerous just lying around? And just like that, the ancient manual catches fire and turns to ash. Then a voice outside starts yelling, frantic, calling for the gate master. The father yanks the door open, clearly irritated, and finds one of his guards standing there looking wrecked. The guard reports that the clan squad has engaged the demonic cult. The father goes pale. He asks where. The guard says the Shangyang mansion. Kian hears that and his expression shifts. That's the Alliance's second safe house. Cut to the mansion itself, wide shot, massive gates, and a battle already in full swing. 2 blades collide and the impact throws off a burst of red and white energy. 2 fighters are going at it in the courtyard, fast and precise, neither giving an inch. One of them launches into the air, sword raised, committing to a full overhead attack. The squad leader is holding his ground when one of his men calls out to him, urgent. That's when their opponent reveals herself. White hair, red eyes, a full demoness, not a random grunt. The man shouts at his leader, telling him to focus. Right now, this is not the moment to get distracted. He tells the squad leader, get the young mistress to the clan now, fast as possible. The leader grips his sword and reads the situation. This old monster isn't going to step aside. The demoness fixes him with a killing look. He says he'll hold her off as long as he can. The man gets it, sword in hand. He gives his leader one last look and wishes him luck. The squad leader plants himself on the ground while the demoness watches from a distance, her followers fanned out behind her. She grins like she's already won and orders her men to move in. Capture them all. Her followers don't hesitate. They surge forward the second the words leave her mouth. The squad leader steadies himself and faces her head-on, fully committed to the fight. She licks her claws and asks, almost playfully, what a tiger squad leader tastes like. He keeps his head and asks himself the real question. Why did a demonic cult leader bother showing up in person for this? His best guess is that she's here for the young mistress of the Ice Palace. Simple covetousness. She smiles at that, tells him his question proves he has no idea what's actually going on. That lands wrong. He stares at her, suspicious, trying to figure out what he's missing. She says ignorance is a gift, then offers to fix his. She'll tell him exactly what he's been protecting. That stops everyone cold. The young mistress and her guards turn back, caught off guard by where this is going. Then two more figures drop in behind the group out of nowhere. Nobody saw them coming. And now the demoness reveals the real reason they've been chasing the young lady of the Ice Palace. The camera pulls back and the group is boxed in, new enemies closing from behind. The girl looks back, pure shock, pure fear, she sees it too. The two men move in slow, radiating dark energy, smiling like they've already got what they came for. The protector squares up immediately, body shifting into fight mode as those two creeps close the distance. Then his eyes go wide, he recognizes them, and that look on his face says the news is very, very bad. Because these two are the one-eyed demon and the one-armed demon. Yeah, that kind of reputation definitely precedes you. The girl leans toward her protector and asks, just to be sure, if she heard those names right. She did. The one-eyed demon collects eyes from the people he kills, takes them as actual trophies. And the one-armed demon does the same thing, but with arms. These guys have a type and it is deeply unhinged. Then the one-eyed demon turns to the girl and tells her she has a gorgeous pair of eyes, as a compliment, while being a murder collector. The look on her face says everything. That is not a compliment she wanted to receive from this man. He keeps going, saying eyes like hers are just too rare to walk past. Absolute creep energy. Her protector cuts in and tells her to stop worrying about him and start worrying about herself right now. Both sides stare each other down on that tree-lined road. Nobody's moved yet, but something is about to give. Then a red-haired kid drops in from nowhere and announces their night is going to be a long one. Great, more variables. Cut to a wide shot of the city, stone streets and low rooftops spread out quiet under the night sky. Kian is out walking alone on a stone path, clearly turning something over in his head. He spots flashes of light in the distance, out in the forest. Someone is throwing hands out there, no question. His first thought is that actually his problem, classic Kian reasoning. He even stops walking and seriously considers just continuing on and minding his own business. Then a wave of freezing energy hits him and he knows exactly whose that is. That's Pang Solin. He looks back out at the light show in the sky, and yeah, that is a full-scale brawl happening out there. A green glow pulses at his feet and his mind is made up. He turns and heads straight for that fight. He bolts, moving so fast he's basically a green blur tearing through the trees. Seconds later, he's already touching down at the forest clearing where the whole fight is happening. He lands on a branch and crouches up there, watching the whole thing play out below him. His expression goes cold and analytical. He's reading the fight the way a strategist reads a board. Down in the clearing, he spots a young warrior getting swarmed by multiple enemies at once. The kid is holding his own, sword blazing with blue energy as he tears through the crowd. He catches a strike from the guy in red, who's clearly running things on the enemy side. The man in red gets cocky about it, mocking him about where all that big talk disappeared to. The warrior snaps, jaw tight, teeth grinding, fury written all over his face. Kian stays completely still up in that tree the whole time, watching, calculating, giving nothing away. Something feels off to him. A fighter at Mu Bake's level shouldn't be struggling this much. Then it happens. A second enemy catches the young man completely off guard with a sucker punch. He eats the hit square in the face with no time to dodge, groaning hard from the impact. The guy who landed it grins wide, real smug about actually managing to connect. Kian's eyes sharpen. He's starting to piece together exactly what's going on down there. The young man barely slips the next attack, but he's running on fumes at this point. His opponent doesn't press the advantage, pulling back fast to avoid any counter. The young man drops to his hands and knees, chest heaving, trying to pull himself together. His enemy sees the opening and unloads. a massive red energy blast aimed straight at him. The young man looks up and sees it coming. No time to move, eyes wide, completely frozen. Then out of nowhere, green energy cuts through the air, and the red-clad man has no idea where it came from. That green energy slams into the incoming red strike and eats it whole, pulling the young warrior back from the edge. The man in red shakes it off fast and resets, screaming that he'll settle for taking one of his arms. Then a foot hits the ground hard enough to stop him cold before he can even wind up. The scholar blurs forward in a streak of green and plants himself right between the enemy and the wounded kid. The man in red freezes, genuinely thrown off by someone materializing out of thin air to play shield. Our guy turns to face him with a calm smile, green aura already burning around him like he owns the place. That just makes the opponent angrier. How did he not sense this person coming at all? Down on the ground, the young warrior squints up at the figure standing over him, trying to place the face. His companion rushes over, voice tight, asking if he's still in one piece after all that. He grabs at his chest and tries to wave it off, but the injuries are clearly arguing back. He wipes his face, sets his jaw, and makes it clear he's not done yet. Then another voice cuts in, noting that the young man's sword art has always been technically clean. He pauses, then adds the other half. Until now, he finally sees what it was missing. Killing intent, that's the gap, and the young warrior feels it land like a gut punch the moment it's said. Our hero lays it out. He's never actually seen the Emperor's sword form written down anywhere. But watching it in motion was enough. He's already figured out it's built specifically to channel murderous intent. The young man's jaw drops. That's clan knowledge, something he only heard from his own father. He can't wrap his head around it. The scholar reverse-engineered his family's ultimate art just by observing one fight. So he looks up at him and asks the question that's been building this whole time. Who actually are you? The scholar extends his hand and says that to forge a sword truly worthy of a noble clan. The young man has been strangling his killing intent for ages, too worried about what others think. The scene cuts to a glowing blue eye. A sword like that needs to carry real dignity. Our hero smiles and says that's exactly the problem. What the young master needs right now is the opposite of restraint. He tells him, slaughter that which is not human. The young man hears it and something clicks. The scholar lays it out plainly. Those who throw away their humanity can be cut down without a second thought. Because that is the actual foundation of the Namgung clan's sword art, the one that broke the cult. The young man lets the words sink in, then repeats it to himself with a slow, growing smile. Slaughter what is not human. His companion pipes up and asks whether killing intent works differently from internal energy. Our hero smiles and gives her a straight answer. Killing intent is purely a matter of will. Internal energy, he continues, is the fuel that keeps you going through a fight. But if you lack the actual resolve to drive a blade through someone's heart, none of that fuel matters. He wraps it up by pointing out that killing intent is itself a form of spiritual energy. That is why you can feel a killer before you ever see them. It radiates outward like a pressure field. His companion quietly repeats the word. Will, you can see her turning it over in her head. And our hero, listening to himself explain it, has a realization. He had been reading this all wrong. He assumed the young warrior lacked internal energy. Turns out it was the killing intent that was missing the whole time. The scholar connects the dots and finally understands what was actually holding the guy back. Then out of nowhere, a white blur rockets past all of them and the whole group flinches. The little girl is sprinting forward, wrapped in a blue aura, and the young man screams her name like he just watched someone run into traffic. Her protector moves to stop her, then freezes when he realizes exactly which technique she just pulled out. The girl drives it home. A massive wave of ice energy straight at the man in red. He can barely process it. She's using the Snowwind sword art, and she's not just mimicking it, she's actually got it down. The enemy strains to block it, barely holds, and snarls at her for having the nerve. Her eyes light up and she stops holding back. The enemy leader sees what's coming and looks genuinely scared. The young master throws everything into one blast of ice energy. It doesn't just clip the leader, it tears through his followers too. The man in red takes it full on and screams. He completely underestimated her and now he's paying for it. He goes down, no strength left. The girl and her protector watch him fall, and for a moment neither of them has to say anything. From a distance, our guy is watching all of this with a quiet smile. Somehow he doesn't look surprised at all. But the protector spins toward the scholar, voice tight. The squad leader is in trouble. She's not asking, she's alarmed. Cut to a powerful demon with red eyes and a smile that means nothing good. She's clearly the one who backed the leader into a corner. The squad leader is a mess, covered in wounds, but still on his feet. He's standing alone against the mistress of the demonic cult pavilion.